Chapter 12:23. Give you two Lu Yi, am giving you a gift. Am a man of my word. Of course I'll give you a gift, Yun Chujo said as she took out her kitchen knife. Lu Yi was so scared that she screamed, what are you giving me? Originally I wanted to draw two little bastards on your face, but since your name is Lu Yi, then I'll draw two Lu Yi. Then wherever you go, everyone will know that your name is Lu Yi. Oh right, didn't you say that Yin Xinlian is the most generous? After I draw you Lu Yi, you can go and ask her for medicinal pills, and your appearance will return to normal. After all, you are also a dog that she feeds, so she will still be willing to part with you. Yun Chujo took the large kitchen knife and rubbed it against Lu Yi's face. Lu Yi was so frightened that her face turned pale. You dare? If you dare to ruin my appearance, the palace master's wife will definitely stand up for me. My aunt dotes on me the most. Will she punish me because of a little handmaiden like you? Are you talking nonsense? After Yun Chujo finished speaking, the large kitchen knife in her hand started to slice Lu Yi's face. Lu Yi's miserable howl made everyone's hair stand on end, but no one stepped forward to stop her. Although this Yun Chujo was not liked by the palace mistress, but they were still guests after all. They were just servants, there was no need to have any conflict with her. After Yun Chujo finished drawing the two pieces of Lu Yi, she nodded her head in satisfaction. Although I haven't drawn Lu Yi for a long time, the drawing is still pretty good. You can stand up and look at yourself in the mirror. It's really beautiful. After saying that, Yun Chujo untied Lu Yi's acupoints and spiritual power. Lu Yi stood up, took out the mirror and almost fainted. Two pieces of Lu Yi appeared on her delicate and flawless face. It was as ugly as it could be. She was blinded by anger and directly threw several wind blades at Yun Chujo. The steward of the canteen frowned. Just as he was about to help Yun Chujo block them, he saw that Yun Chujo had already disappeared. She was actually behind Lu Yi, and then she ruthlessly kicked Lu Yi. Lu Yi flew out like a kite with a broken string. She fell heavily to the ground and directly fainted. The contempt in everyone's hearts disappeared in a flash. Although this Yun Chujo was at the 2nd level of the spirit sect, that Lu Yi was at the 6th level of the spirit sect. In front of Yun Chujo, she didn't even have the strength to fight back. You're really ungrateful. I helped her draw Lu Yi out of kindness, yet you want to repay kindness with enmity. This is really outrageous. That person in green, do you think my drawing is good? Yun Chujo pointed at a maid. When the servant girl in green heard Yun Chujo's question, she trembled slightly and said, Good, it's a good drawing. What do you think? Yun Chujo pointed at a servant girl in purple. Good. Your drawing is lifelike, very good. The servant girl in purple quickly echoed. She thought to herself, this little girl is really too ruthless. Don't offend her. Yun Chujo then nodded with satisfaction. It seems that your taste is much better than Lu Yi's. Those who are close to her will become red, and those who are close to her will become black. You should stay away from her in the future so that you won't be infected by her stupidity. Everyone agreed. They only had one thought in their hearts. Regardless of whether this Yun Chujo was a good-for-nothing or not, it would be easy for them to take care of these servants. It was better for them to be more respectful, otherwise they would end up like Lu Yi. Therefore everyone just let Lu Yi pass out and no one went over to ask. Yun Chujo took out a handkerchief and wiped her hands. Then she said to the steward of the canteen with a smile, Steward, shouldn't you hurry up and cook? I have been hungry for a long time. Chapter 12:24 is for you. When the steward saw how fast Yun Chujo changed her expression, he was stunned for a moment. He regained his senses and quickly said, Miss Yun, please wait for a moment. I will go and cook for you personally. Okay. You can call me Miss Jo from now on. Miss Yun sounds weird. Yun Chujo sat back on the chair and said with a smile, Yes, Miss Jo. After saying that, the steward brought two helpers into the kitchen and busied himself. Those servants no longer dared to sit like a master or a lady. They all stood respectfully, afraid that if this little devil did not like them, they would end up like Lu Yi. Why are you all standing there? Continue eating. I am the kindest person. If you don't provoke me, I am still very easy to talk to. Yun Chujo took out a spirit fruit and started to eat it. Kind-hearted? Forget it. Using a large kitchen knife at the slightest disagreement and kicking at the slightest disagreement. If you were kind-hearted, There would be no evildoers in this world. Everyone hurriedly ate a few mouthfuls and then left one after another. Their speed was so fast that it was as if they were fleeing for their lives. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Why were the servants of the Palace of Immortals so timid? She didn't do anything. An hour later, Steward Lee from the canteen placed the prepared dishes into a food box and handed it to Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo opened it and saw that not only were there the 6 dishes that she had ordered, there were also some pastries and side dishes. This Steward Lee sure knew how to do things. Yun Chujo put the food box into her storage ring and threw it on the table with 500 upper-grade spirit stones. This is for you. After saying that, Yun Chujo hopped away. This fellow couldn't wait to go back and feast. Steward Lee looked at Yun Chujo's back with a dumbfounded expression, and then looked at the spirit stones on the table. She gave 500 upper-grade spirit stones as a reward? Didn't they say that this 9th young miss was the most stingy? Didn't they say that she was the most greedy? It seemed that it was true that rumors couldn't be heard. This 9th young miss wasn't as useless as Jian Shui said, and she looked completely different from the other 3 young misses. At this moment Lu Yi also woke up. She saw that she was still lying on the ground, but there was no one beside her. She was so angry that she almost fainted again. After she got up, she gritted her teeth and stomped her feet, then went straight to Yin Xinlian's courtyard. Yin Xinlian's courtyard had a maid arranged by the palace mistress, Shi Lan. She was currently serving Yin Xinlian dinner when she heard a knock on the door and walked out. Shi Lan was shocked when she saw Lu Yi's miserable state. Lu Yi, how did your face become like this? Lu Yi scolded angrily. It's all because of that Yun Chujo. I only said a few words and she used a knife to destroy my face. Shi Lan, help me make a report. I want to see Miss Yin. Shi Lan said with some embarrassment. Miss Yin is having dinner. It's not appropriate to report now. Why don't you go back first? I'll tell Miss Yin after dinner. If she's willing to see you, you can come over. At this moment, Yin Xinlian said in the room, let her in. Lu Yi quickly followed Shi Lan into the courtyard and knelt down to Yin Xinlian. Miss Yin, I know you're the kindest. You must save me. Otherwise, my appearance will be ruined. Yin Xinlian showed a worried expression. Lu Yi, how did you become like this? Who ruined your appearance? It was that bitch Yun Chujo. Lu Yi told her about the incident at the canteen. Of course, she hid her extreme words and blamed Yun Chujo. Chapter 12:25 Aunt Zhang treats me very well, Miss Yin. Please reward me with a muscle revitalization pill. I will definitely repay you well in the future, Lu Yi pleaded after she finished telling her story. Lu Yi waited anxiously for Yin Xinlian's reply. The skin on her face was very delicate. If an ordinary muscle revitalization pill was used, it would definitely leave a small scar. Only by using the muscle revitalization pill would it recover to its original state, and the muscle revitalization pill was a grade 10 pill. A mere servant girl like her could not afford it. Yin Xinlian looked at Lu Yi sympathetically. Looks are extremely important to a girl. That Yun Chujo is really too much. I happen to have a muscle revitalization pill on me that I can give to you, but are you going to swallow it just like that? Lu Yi gnashed her teeth and said, of course I'm not willing. But no matter how useless that Yun Chujo is, she's still the wife's old friend's daughter. What can a mere maid like me do? That's not true. The wife is very displeased with Yun Chujo. Why don't you go and cry to the wife tomorrow morning? The wife will definitely make a decision for you. Perhaps the wife will give you the flawless rejuvenation pill. If she doesn't give it to you, I'll give it to you. Anyway, you'll have to apply the flawless rejuvenation pill on your injury within 3 days so that there won't be any scars. Yin Xinlian put herself in Lu Yi's shoes. Upon hearing Yin Xinlian's words, Lu Yi gratefully said, thank you, Miss Yin. Lu Yi will never forget your great kindness. I will definitely repay you properly. Yin Xinlian gently said, I just don't like how Yun Chujo has humiliated you. There's no need to take it to heart. You should go back and rest first. Tomorrow morning, you should go and complain to the palace mistress. I believe that the palace mistress will definitely make a decision for you. Lu Yi left with tears of gratitude. Yin Xinlian sneered. What an idiot. However, she could use her to make the palace master's wife have a worse impression of Yun Chujo. On the first day of coming to the Temple of Immortals, she actually disfigured a maid. Yun Chujo. You're really bold. You're courting death. The palace master's wife was the most protective. Yoon Chujo disfigured her mate, so she definitely wouldn't let Yoon Chujo off. When the time came, she would fan the flames again. Perhaps the palace master's wife would chase Yoon Chujo out of the Temple of Immortals. If she arranged for the Een family's secret guards to intercept Yoon Chujo on the way, Yoon Chujo would definitely die. When Een Shinlian thought of this, a sinister smile appeared on her face. Shilon, who was at the side, happened to catch a glimpse of it and could not help but shiver. Miss Een usually looked very gentle and generous, but this look was really too frightening. At this moment, Yoon Chujo had already returned to the courtyard. She opened the food box and began to eat happily. Just after dinner, the sound transmission talisman started to vibrate. Dee Biming's voice came from inside. Little Joe, I thought that I could accompany you properly. I didn't expect that I would have to go back for at least 10 days. If my mother makes things difficult for you, send a message to me and I will take care of it. Prince Charming, don't worry. Auntie is very good to me. The courtyard that she arranged for me is really good. It's simply too considerate. On the other end, Dee Biming kept feeling that Yoon Chujio's words were somewhat out of place. His mother would arrange a courtyard for little Jio? It was unlikely, right? Oh right, Prince Charming, I made a small sum of money on the spaceship. Let me tell you. Yoon Chujo blabbered on about how she earned 450,000 high-grade spirit stones. The corner of Dee Biming's eyes twitched violently. Someone as thick-skinned as little Jio could be considered unprecedented. However, his mother had suffered such a huge loss, she probably wouldn't stop. Chapter 1226. Give me a loving hug. The next morning, Yoon Chujo was still asleep when she heard Manager Luo's voice from outside the courtyard. Miss Jo, the palace mistress has sent you over. Yoon Chujo shouted impatiently. I haven't woken up yet. Why are you shouting? Wait outside. Manager Luo shrunk her neck. When the three ladies heard that the palace mistress had summoned them, which one of them did not rush over? This person was not only not attentive, but also impatient. Although Manager Luo was complaining in her heart, she did not dare to say much, especially when she thought of the two ghostly symbols on Lu Ye's face. After an hour, Yoon Chujo finally came out. While yawning, she said, Do all of you from the Hall of Immortals wake up so early? It's not easy to have a holiday and you can't even sleep in. I haven't even eaten breakfast. Manager Luo thought for a moment and said, Miss Jo, Lu Yi came to the palace master's wife in the morning to cry and complain that you ruined her appearance. The palace master's wife was furious, so she summoned the four of you. Yoon Chujo naturally understood that Manager Luo was trying to please her. She nodded and said, My aunt is probably anxious to see me, so she used this introduction to summon me. She really put in a lot of effort. Manager Luo's face stiffened. There was no one else who could be so narcissistic. Forget it. Anyway, I've already reminded her. I can't help it if you don't take it to heart. At this moment in the living room, the palace mistress' face was as dark as water. She slammed the table and 3 pearls jumped. The palace mistress said angrily, Outrageous. Outrageous. It's really outrageous. It's already been an hour. And this Yoon Chujo still hasn't come. She really doesn't put me in her eyes. Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yan didn't say anything, but Een Shinlian said gently, Palace mistress, Junior Yoon may have overslept. After all, she caused a big scene in the canteen yesterday. Hearing Een Xinlian's words, the palace mistress was even more furious. She went to other people's house as a guest and didn't stay well. She actually caused a big scene in the master's canteen and beat up the maids. This is really too unruly. Lu Yi, who was kneeling on the ground, had a flash of pride in her eyes. Yoon Chujo, you're really courting death. You've been dawdling for so long and still haven't arrived. Just wait to suffer the palace mistress' anger. Just as the palace mistress was about to send a voice transmission talisman to Manager Luo in a rage, she heard someone shout cheerfully, Aunt, I've missed you to death. Aunt, come on, let's have a loving hug. As she spoke, a delicate figure rushed in and rushed all the way to the front of the palace mistress. Seeing that she was really going to hug the palace mistress was scared silly and hurriedly shouted, Stop! Yoon Chujo suddenly stopped and looked at the palace mistress with an aggrieved expression. Aunt, little Jo has missed you so much. Why are you so cold to me? It's really too heartbreaking. The palace master's wife regained her senses and angrily shouted, Don't give me that trick. Step back. Yoon Chujo pursed her lips and took a few steps back as she said aggrievedly, Aunt, we haven't seen each other for just over a month and you already don't dote on little Jio? Don't flatter me. Let me ask you, why did you beat up Lu Yi yesterday? A guess like you actually beat up the master's maid. You really don't have any rules. The palace master's wife sternly shouted. She did not hide her disgust and dissatisfaction towards Yoon Chujo at all. In Xinlian's heart rejoiced. The palace master's wife really did not like Yoon Chujo. As long as I add fuel to the fire, Yoon Chujo would definitely be driven out of the Palace of Immortals. Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yan had the mentality of watching a show. They did not hate Yoon Chujo as much as Xinlian did. They felt that she was just a little girl with no background and was not a threat to them at all. Chapter 12:27 I feel so wronged. Lu Yi, who was kneeling on the ground, was naturally filled with joy. She deserved it. You, a country bumpkin, actually dared to ruin my looks. Just wait to be punished. Just as Lu Yi was feeling pleased with herself, she never expected that Yoon Chujo would suddenly give her a kick. Even in her dreams, the miserable Lu Yi would never have imagined that Yoon Chujo would actually dare to beat her in front of the hall master's wife. She was directly kicked out of the living room. She directly crashed onto the green stone slab outside. Fortunately, she was a person with spiritual power. If this was an ordinary person, they would definitely fall to their deaths. Everyone in the room was stunned. To start a fight without a word, this was too intrepid. Moreover, what kind of place was this? If you did this, wouldn't you be slapping the hall master's wife's face? Don't you think about it? The hall master's wife's face was ashen, just as she was about to fly into a rage. She saw Yoon Chujo point at Lu Yi and curse, You audacious slave. You woke up my aunt early in the morning because of your trivial matter. Don't you know how important beauty sleep is to a woman? My aunt provides you with food and clothes, and you actually harbor such evil intentions. You ungrateful wretch. Weren't you the one who asked me for a reward yesterday? What's wrong with me giving you to Lu Yi? You still have the face to complain to my aunt. How shameless. Besides, my aunt said that she would treat me as her own daughter from now on. The Temple of Immortals is naturally my home. As the master, what's the big deal about me teaching you a lesson as a maid? You actually want to sow discord between me and my Aunt Pui. Would someone as wise as my aunt listen to your slander? Lu Yi was already severely injured. After being scolded by Yoon Chujo, she was instantly dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Aunt, actually yesterday, woo, I suffered a great grievance. I was afraid that you would be worried, so I endured it and didn't say anything. I didn't expect this little bitch trash to actually bite me back. This is really a slave bullying its master. Auntie, you must help me make a decision. I was so wrong that I did not sleep the entire night. In the morning I was so angry that I fainted. Manager Luo woke me up only after shouting for a long time. Manager Luo's eyes were fixed on the ground. I did not hear anything. The palace master's wife was stunned by Yoon Chujio's words. She actually did not know what to say, saying that she did not follow the rules and beat up the master's maid? That little shameless person said those words. If I were to say that again, she would definitely say that I broke some promise to treat her as my own daughter. Yes, if she treated the Temple of Immortals as her own home, there was nothing wrong with the master teaching the maid a lesson, just as the palace mistress was in a difficult position. She heard Xinlian say, Junior Yoon, although you don't treat yourself as a guest, this Lu Yi girl's appearance has been ruined by you. What will you do in the future? She only offended you with her words. Aren't you being too cruel? Yoon Chujo looked deeply at Xinlian. Xinlian felt goosebumps and her body tensed up. Did Yoon Chujo want to fight with her? Although she wasn't afraid of her, she couldn't kill her in front of the palace master's wife. However, she could teach her a lesson. Xinlian sighed. No wonder young Master Wuji said that your sisters are shameless. Today I have finally seen it for myself. This is a family matter of our Hall of Longevity. What is a guest like you talking about? Could it be that this Lu Yi has some secret deal with you? Oh right, yesterday this Lu Yi praised you. She even said that Senior Qin and Senior Bai Li are not as good as you. Could it be that this is a spy arranged by your Een clan in the Hall of Longevity? Are you planning to stir up trouble in the Temple of Immortals, and then your Een clan will wait for an opportunity to make a move? Moreover, my aunt hasn't said anything yet. What right do you have to say anything? Do you think that you're in the Een clan now? Chapter 1228 was all within little Joe's grasp. Xinlian's face flushed red from anger after being retorted by Yun Chuzhou. She quickly said to the palace master's wife, "Palace master's wife, Yun Chuzhou is spouting nonsense. I just don't like how she acts so tyrannically. Xinlian, you don't have to say anything nice. Auntie, you can ask the maids in Xinlian's courtyard if Lu Yi went to Xinlian for help last night. If I'm not wrong, Lu Yi coming here so early in the morning was Xinlian's idea. Otherwise, how would Lu Yi have the guts to mess with you so early in the morning? Xinlian is deliberately messing with our longevity hall. What a sinister little bitch." Xinlian's face turned from red to pale when she heard Yun Chuzhou's words. She knew that she had fallen into a trap. When the palace mistress saw Xinlian's expression, she knew that Yun Chuzhou was most likely telling the truth. Hence she called Xilan in. Naturally, Xilan did not dare to hide anything and told the palace mistress everything that had happened yesterday. Xinlian was so regretful that her intestines turned green. She had never thought that Yun Chuzhou would bite back, so when she spoke to Lu Yi, she did not hide anything from Xilan. When the palace mistress heard this, her face was as dark as water. "Miss Een, I didn't expect you to be so scheming for the sake of our longevity hall. Even a mere serving girl has to help you with your plans. You're really thorough." Xinlian gritted her teeth. She bowed to the palace mistress. This matter is indeed Xinlian's fault. Xinlian was also unhappy because she had many conflicts with Yun Chuzhou, so she acted a little rashly. I hope the palace mistress can forgive her. The palace lord's wife had disliked the Een sisters previously. Now she loathed Xinlian even more. This Xinlian's thoughts were too vicious. She was afraid that there really was a Een family spy in the Hall of Eternal Life. She had to warn Bei Ming, let him investigate thoroughly. The palace lord's wife was repeatedly tricked by Yun Chuzhou. That was because she was afraid that Bei Ming would fall out with her, so she did not really pursue the matter. Otherwise, no matter how hard Yun Chuzhou tried to argue, she would not be able to escape death. As the palace master's wife of the Temple of Immortals, how could the palace master's wife be a person without any cleavage? It was just that she did not really care about Yun Chuzhou. Of course, she had never seen such a shameless person. For a moment, she was unable to react. The palace master's wife thought for a few times and said indifferently, "Forget it, let's put this matter behind us. Lu Yi has offended a guest, so Manager Luo, she will be handed over to you to deal with." Lu Yi was so scared that she was trembling. She knew that she would not be able to escape punishment, but what about her appearance? Hence, she shouted at Xinlian with all her might, "Miss Een, I have done everything according to your instructions. You promised me that you would give me the flawless muscle regeneration pill. Quickly give it to me." Xinlian wished that she could slap her to death. A trash who was a burden to her, and she still wanted the pill? It was simply wishful thinking, so Xinlian kept silent as if she hadn't heard anything. Lu Yi looked at Xinlian in disbelief. "Miss Een, if it wasn't for your idea, I wouldn't have come to report to the palace master's wife, and I wouldn't have ended up like this. You're actually so heartless?" Xinlian looked at her viciously and thought to herself, since everyone already knew what had happened, why would I be afraid of you blackmailing me? If you want the pills, dream on. Lu Yi was taken away by Manager Luo's men. Yun Chuzhou said with a cheeky smile, "Aunt, I knew you were the most observant. Well, I haven't had breakfast yet. Do you have anything delicious to give me?" Chapter 1229 was iron rice and steel. The palace master's wife glared at her. "All you know is to eat. Starve. The weather today is not bad. Accompany me to the back garden for a walk." Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan hurriedly stood up and accompanied the palace master's wife on both sides. Xinlian knew that she was in the wrong, so she was one step behind. As for Yun Chuzhou, she took out a piece of cake and ate it as she walked. She could never mistreat herself, could she? The palace master's wife turned a blind eye to this and did not say anything. The four of them accompanied the palace master's wife and walked around the back garden for a while. The palace master's wife also kept talking to Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan. She completely ignored Yun Chuzhou and Yin Xinlian. Yin Xinlian's heart was filled with regret, and she hated Yun Chuzhou even more. She felt that this was a trap deliberately set by Yun Chuzhou. "This bitch, I won't forgive you." When it was almost lunchtime, the palace mistress had someone place a table of food in the pavilion in the garden. The five of them sat around the table, and it was quite a joyous occasion. Qin Mingzhu and the other two naturally wouldn't really eat to their heart's content. Not only would they help the palace mistress distribute the food, they would also talk about some interesting things to make the palace mistress happy. Only Yun Chuzhou would bury her head in the food. She felt that it would be better for her to marry a gigolo as soon as possible. The food in the dining hall was really fucking delicious. When the palace master's wife saw that Yun Chuzhou was like a starving ghost reincarnated, she snorted coldly and said, "Little Zhou, can't you have a little bit of a girl's bearing? How can you wolf down the food like that?" After Yun Chuzhou swallowed the food in her mouth, she said with a smile, "Aunt, you can't blame me for this. I came to see you so early in the morning without eating. I'm hungry. I'm like iron rice and iron rice. I'm so hungry that I don't want to eat. It's just my instinct." The palace master's wife glared at her. "You're full of nonsense. You've been in school for half a year, and you're only at the second level of the spirit sect. Don't you know how to be anxious? You're really a waste if you don't want to improve." Not only was Yun Chuzhou not angry, she even giggled and said, "I'm deeply in love with you. I know that you're the best to me. Don't worry, I'll definitely cultivate well." The palace master's wife choked. How did this little rascal grow up? He was really too shameless. "I'm worried about you. I can't wait for you to not enter the top 100 of the prodigy roll." Qin Mingzhu and the other two watched as the palace mistress and Yun Chuzhou bickered with each other. For some reason, they felt that the palace mistress was actually closer to Yun Chuzhou than she was to them. Only those who were close to her would raise their noses and look at her. That was because they did not treat her as an outsider. They would usually be polite to outsiders. Yin Xinlian's hands were tightly clenched under her sleeves. "Slut, even if you are not chased out of the longevity hall, I will still take your life in the life and death arena in a month's time." The palace mistress was so angry at Yun Chuzhou that she only ate a little before saying that she was tired. She told them to continue and left immediately. When Yun Chuzhou saw that the palace mistress had left, she sat there calmly and continued to eat. She was not affected at all. Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan looked at each other. Although the two of them were not on good terms with each other, they had not fallen out yet. Therefore, the two of them went to admire the flowers together. Only Yun Chuzhou and Yin Xinlian were left in the pavilion. Yin Xinlian said fiercely, "Yun Chuzhou, don't be complacent. The life and death arena in a month's time will be your death date. Get lost. Can't you see that I'm eating? It's so annoying to be buzzing like a fly." Yun Chuzhou said with disdain. Yin Xinlian tried her best not to attack Yun Chuzhou. The palace master's wife was already displeased with her. If she attacked Yun Chuzhou again, she would be falling into Yun Chuzhou's trap. Chapter 12:30. Do you like to be abused? Yin Xinlian weighed the pros and cons and said viciously, "Yun Chuzhou, I'm not going to argue with you. Let's wait and see." "Wait and see? I'm not afraid of you even if you run away. I advise you to stop scheming. Fight with me? Even if you have 4 heads, you can't beat me." Yin Xinlian knew that her words could not beat Yun Chuzhou's, so she gritted her teeth and left angrily. Yun Chuzhou muttered, "Aya, these people really don't know how to enjoy themselves. There are so many delicious dishes but they are all gone. It's really convenient for me." While this fellow was happily eating and drinking here, on the other side, the palace mistress and manager Luo were talking. "Have you investigated everything? It seems that I have been too indulgent with them all these years." The palace mistress placed the teacup in her hand heavily on the coffee table. "Madam, the wound on Lu Ye's face was indeed caused by the 9th misusing a knife. However, what Lu Yi said earlier was very excessive. Furthermore, some of the negative words regarding the 9th miss were spread by Dian Shui." Manager Luo could not help but curse in his heart. Madam, wasn't the reason for all of this all because you had arranged such a lousy courtyard for the ninth miss? Otherwise, how would the people under them dare to watch others cook? Dian Shui, the husband of the palace master, frowned deeply. She knows about the relationship between the little rascal and Bei Ming. Why would she do that? Manager Luo hesitated for a moment but still said, Madam, maybe Dian Shui is getting older so her thoughts are getting bigger. The wife of the palace master immediately understood Manager Luo's meaning. She couldn't help but sneer. Truly a snake swallowing an elephant when its heart is not enough. The treatment she enjoys here can be compared to that of a young lady from a big family. How could she still miss Bei Ming? It's fine if it's just a young lady who is in love, but she actually wants to use some small tricks to force the little rascal out. I'm raising an ungrateful wolf. Madam, then how do you plan to deal with Lu Yi and Dian Shui? Manager Luo asked. Just deal with Lu Yi directly. This kind of person who is a traitor and a fool who is instigated by others will be a disaster sooner or later. As for Dian Shui, leave her for now. It's not bad to give the little rascal something to do. Also, let's see if she can get involved in other matters. The palace master's wife said after taking a sip of tea. Manager Luo nodded. She felt that the palace mistress might not hate the ninth miss as much as she said. Otherwise, with the palace mistress' ruthless way of handling things, she would have long taught the little girl a lesson. Perhaps the palace mistress felt that it was very happy to fight with the ninth miss. To be more precise, it was very happy to be attacked by the ninth miss. Manager Luo was shocked by her strange thoughts. Emma, could it be that the palace mistress likes to be abused? She must be thinking too much. Yin Xinlian walked towards the courtyard with a heavy face. On the way she met a pretty maid. Greetings, Miss Yin. Oh, it's Miss Dian Shui. Coincidentally, I brought some trinkets with me this time. If you have time, come to my place and help me distribute the things to everyone. It's not worth much. It's just a token of my appreciation. Yin Xinlian smiled. Dian Shui was one of the 4 personal handmaidens of the palace master's wife. She was quite liked by the palace master's wife, so it was very necessary to have a good relationship with her. Dian Su's heart moved. Although it was not very good to go to Miss Yin's courtyard at this time, in order to get rid of that Yun Chuzhou, she had to take risks. Hence she nodded. Miss Yin is really courteous. Every time you come, you will give us servants things. I've made you spend so much money. Yin Xinlian said a few polite words and brought Dian Shui back to her courtyard. Chapter 1231. Using each other, the two of them arrived at Yin Xinlian's courtyard. After chatting for a while, Yin Xinlian found a catalyst to send Xilan out. Miss Dian Shui, am really full of grievances. I just can't stand Yun Chujia's overbearing way of doing things. I didn't expect her to make the palace master's wife dislike me with just a few words. Sigh. Yin Xinlian sighed and said, Miss Yin, you don't have to be sad. The palace master's wife is just unable to change the situation for the time being. She might forget about this matter in a few days. The key point was that Yun Chuzhou was really detestable. She was just an old country bumpkin from the Qingxian continent, yet she actually turned the tables and acted arrogantly in the Palace of Immortals. Dian Shui said through gritted teeth. Yin Xinlian's heart stirred. How could this Dian Shui be so resentful towards Yun Chuzhou? It was probably because the palace master's wife had always been good to her, so she felt that Yun Chuzhou had been taken care of by the palace master's wife, so she was not convinced. Seemed that this Dian Shui could be used. She was much more useful than Lu Yi. Miss Dian Shui, actually there are some things that I shouldn't have said, but since we hit it off, I'll only tell you. It's fine if you hear it. Miss Yin, just say it. Don't worry, I definitely won't reveal it to anyone. The palace master's wife is really too kind-hearted. Does a daughter of an old friend need to be taken care of like this? Moreover, she's too indulgent. Last time when the palace master's wife went to the Tianyuan Academy, not only was Yun Chuzhou extorting 1 million upper-grade spirit stones, she also extorted a lot of spirit tools. Now, she had also indulged her in beating up the palace maids of the Hall of Immortals. I reckon that Yun Chuzhou has forgotten her identity, Yin Xinlian said with a face full of anger. Yun Chuzhou, Dian Shui almost revealed Yun Chujia's true identity, but she still swallowed it back. If the palace lord's wife knew that she had leaked the secret, she would definitely not let her off. Thus she continued, "She is indeed too arrogant. Such a person should be taught a lesson. Miss Een, I can see that she has gone against you many times. With your identity, wouldn't it be easy for you to deal with her? Why haven't you taken care of her?" Een Sulian sighed. "Of course, it's because of the palace master's wife's face. Otherwise, I would have taken care of her long ago." "Miss Dian Shui, Yun Chujo is extremely greedy. Who knows, she might do something. You are the palace master's wife's favorite. You must be careful. Don't be tricked by her." "Tricked me? She better not provoke me. Otherwise, I'm not as easy to deal with as Lu Yi," Dian Shui said disdainfully. Een Xinlian saw that it was almost time to sow discord, so she said, "Miss Dian Shui, the food and food you eat in the Hall of Eternal Life are all top quality. I have nothing to give you. This 50,000 high-grade spirit stones can be considered as a small gift from me." Dian Shui pretended to decline a few sentences, but she still accepted the spirit stones. She had accepted quite a lot in the past, so she felt that it was only natural. After all, she was favored by the lady of the palace master, so it was very useful for her to put in a good word for her. Dian Shui walked out of the courtyard and couldn't help but sneer. Was Qin Mingzhu planning to use someone else to kill her? Did she really think that she was stupid? However, when she thought of Di Baiming's deep affection for Yun Chujio, the jealousy in her heart spread like weeds. Her esteemed self had always been cold and aloof, but ever since she met this Yun Chujio, she had become different from before. How could a little trash from the Azure Mystic continent obtain her esteemed self's deep love? She was not worthy at all. She knew that with her status, she was not worthy of her esteemed self. However, before her esteemed self met Yun Chujio, he had no intention of getting married. She was the closest woman to her esteemed self. As long as she watched silently and loved him silently, she would be satisfied. However, after having Yun Chujio, her esteemed self no longer belonged to her. Therefore, Yun Chujio had to die. "In Xinlian, you want to use me? Bitch, let's see who will use who." Chapter 1232. Xiao Zhou picks the spirit fruit. On this day, Qin Mingzhu and the other two invited Yun Chujio to take a walk in the garden. Although Yun Chujio was not interested, she could not refuse. She followed the three of them to stroll around the garden in low spirits. She thought to herself, "What's so good about this lousy garden? If only there were fruit trees, at least there would be fruits to eat." After the four of them strolled around for a while, Een Xinlian brought them to a pavilion at the side to sit for a while. Then they arrived at the pavilion. As soon as the four of them sat down, Dian Shui brought two maids over with snacks. After a while, Dian Shui said, "For young ladies, although this garden is not bad, it will be a little boring after a long time. Why don't I bring you to the spirit fruit forest to stroll around? There are many spirit fruits that have already matured there." Een Xinlian immediately echoed, "Spirit fruit forest? I've long heard that the Temple of Immortals has a spirit fruit forest, but I've never been there. There's no harm in taking a look." Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan also nodded in agreement. They also felt that there was nothing interesting these few days. Otherwise, Een Xinlian would not have suggested to go to the garden and followed them. "Can you pick the spirit fruits there?" Yun Chujio's concern was always different from others. Dian Shui smiled. "Of course. The four of you are all distinguished guests of the Temple of Immortals. Of course you can pick a few spiritual fruits." Hearing that, Yun Chujio immediately beamed. "Then let's go. I like eating spiritual fruits the most. For young ladies, please follow me." Dian Shui turned around and signaled the four of them to follow her. A trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. The spirit fruit forest was located at the northwest corner of the rear hall of the Temple of Immortals. It took them more than an hour to arrive at the spirit fruit forest. From afar, they could smell the fragrance of the spirit fruit. Yun Chujio took the lead and rushed to the front. Damn, there was such a good place. No wonder the pretty boy always had spirit fruits in his storage ring. It turned out that the Temple of Immortals had such a large spirit fruit forest. This guy didn't stand on ceremony either. He picked a red fruit and began to eat it with a simple rub. Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan looked at each other. This Yun Chujio was really a foodie. She didn't pose any threat to them at all. Dian Cui smiled and said, "The 3 young ladies, you can also choose the spirit fruits that you like to eat and have a taste. Don't stand on ceremony." Qin Mingzhu and the other 2 picked one as a token and ate it. Yun Chujio was much more shameless than them. As she ate, she put it into her storage ring. "Ladies, there are 7-star fruits here. The taste is very fresh and sweet. Follow me." Dian Shui gestured for everyone to follow her. After many twists and turns, they indeed found a few spiritual fruit trees with golden fruits. The golden fruits on the trees emitted a sweet fragrance and were very tempting. Next to these fruit trees was a barren land with weeds growing everywhere. Yun Chujio picked a 7-star fruit and started to eat it. Her eyes immediately lit up and she began to shamelessly put the 7-star fruits into her storage ring. This was the first time she had seen this thing and it tasted really good. She had to decorate it more. "Miss Jo, the 7-star fruit on the branch here is yellow and big. Come and pick it." Dian Shui pointed at a fruit tree next to her. Yun Chujio looked up and sure enough, the 7-star fruit on the tree was yellow and big. She immediately began to pick the fruit under the tree happily. When Yun Chujio was tiptoeing to pick the fruit, Dian Shui exclaimed and bumped into Yun Chujio. Although Yun Chujio was not knocked down, she stepped on the barren land with one foot. Chapter 1233. I forget food. Yun Chujio felt a huge suction force and a thought flashed through her mind. People die for money, she dies for food. She was still too careless. Although she knew that Dian Shui and Yin Xinlian did not have good intentions, she did not expect that there was something strange in this desolate land. Qin Mingzhu and the others only felt a white light flash and Yun Chujio disappeared. At this time Dian Shui said anxiously, "Miss Yin, why did you bump into me? This is great. Miss Jo accidentally entered the forbidden land. I'm afraid that her life is in danger." Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yan naturally did not worry about Yun Chujio's life or death. Instead, they focused on what Dian Shui said. This must be Yin Xinlian wanting to take revenge on Yun Chujio, so she pushed Dian Shui, and then Dian Shui bumped into Yun Chujio. It was too vicious. "Dian Shui, don't slander me. Although I'm standing very close to you, I didn't touch you at all." Yin Xinlian never thought that Dian Shui would actually bite back and push the blame on her. She thought that she was the one who used her, but she didn't expect to be used by her instead. What a cunning bitch. Dian Shui looked aggrieved. "Miss Yin, there is a right and wrong judgment. I have to report this to the palace master's wife quickly. Otherwise, 9th Miss life will be in danger." Dian Shui left in a hurry after saying this. "Madam, something bad has happened. 9th Miss entered the forbidden area by mistake." Dian Shui reported to the palace master's wife with a sobbing voice. The palace master's wife was leaning back on the recliner and drinking tea. When she heard the news, the teacup in her hand instantly fell to the ground and she grabbed Dian Cai by the neck. "What did you say?" The palace master's wife's spiritual power was superb and Dian Shui was almost strangled to death. Manager Luo hurriedly said, Madam, quickly stop. If you don't stop, Dian Shui will be strangled to death by you." Only then did the palace mistress let go and stared coldly at Dian Shui. What on earth is going on? Dian Shui coughed for a long time. Only then did she say, "The 4 young ladies were bored in the garden, so this servant brought them to the spirit fruit forest. While picking the 7-star fruit, Miss Yin bumped into me. I couldn't stand properly for a moment, so I bumped into the 9th young lady. Then, the 9th young lady stepped into the forbidden area." The palace master's wife slapped her back, and Dian Shui immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at the palace master's wife in disbelief. "Madam, it was really Miss Yin who bumped into me. I didn't mean it." "Bitch. You clearly knew that the 7 stars fruit tree was close to the forbidden area, so why didn't you warn them? If it wasn't for your intentional misdirection, would they have found the 7 stars fruit tree in the deepest part of the forest? Don't think that I don't know about your dirty thoughts. I originally wanted to give you a chance to change, but I didn't expect you to be so vicious. Manager Luo, take her to the death row and let her confront Yin Xinlian." The palace mistress was very regretful. She didn't expect Dian Shui to be so vicious, actually bumping the little rascal into the forbidden area. It was over. The little rascal was probably doomed. Bei Ming would hate her for the rest of his life. The palace master's wife dealt with Dian Shui, and brought manager Luo to the spirit fruit forest in a hurry. Yin Xinlian saw the palace master's wife's gloomy expression and hurriedly said, "Palace master's wife, I really didn't bump into Dian Shui. I dare to swear in my heart demon that I really didn't bump into her." The palace master's wife looked at her coldly. "You didn't bump into her, but little Nine's girl accidentally entered the forbidden area. It must be related to you. Miss Yin, from today onwards, the Temple of Immortals does not welcome you. Moreover, you hurt my people on my Temple of Immortals territory. I will seek justice from the Yin family for this." Chapter 1234 Forbidden Area of the Temple of Immortals. Yin Xinlian's mind went blank. She had never thought that the palace master's wife would think so highly of Yun Chuzhou. Since the palace master's wife had already said such harsh words, it was impossible for her to marry into the Temple of Immortals again. However, the fact that the palace master's wife was so angry also meant that Yun Chuzhou was dead for sure. No matter what, she had achieved her goal. As for the palace lord's wife, she would just have to think of a way to please her in the future. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. The Yin family was not easy to bully. The palace lord's wife stood on the edge of the wasteland and let out a long sigh. Although the little rascal was very detestable, she had never thought of taking her life. She did not expect that in the end, it was because of her miscalculation that she had fallen into a dangerous situation. Bei Ming might really not forgive her. Although the hall master's wife blamed herself very much, she had no choice but to let everyone disperse. Of course, Yin Xinlian was basically under house arrest. She was not allowed to leave the courtyard at all. Although the hall master's wife was very unwilling, she could only use the voice transmission talisman to tell Di Baiming about the matter. After Di Baiming received the palace master's wife's message, his mind immediately buzzed. He immediately put down the things he was doing and returned to the Temple of Immortals, heading straight for the spirit fruit forest. After the palace master's wife received the news, she also rushed to the edge of the spirit fruit forest. She saw Di Baiming pacing back and forth on the desolate land. However, the strange thing was that nothing like what happened to Yun Chuzhou did not happen. He was not sucked in. The hall master's wife was also stunned. "Baiming, why is this forbidden land not working?" Although Di Baiming was dissatisfied with the hall master's wife, he still said, "I don't know what happened either. Originally, I wanted to enter the forbidden land to save little Jiu, but I realized that I can't go in. Baiming, this is mother's negligence. It's mother's fault. Yin Xinlian and Dian Shui are both locked up by me. If you want to do anything, just do it. Mother won't stop you." The hall master's wife said in a panic. Di Baiming knew that the palace mistress didn't want to kill Yun Chuzhou, but even so, he was still dissatisfied. He said indifferently, "Let's first confirm little Jiu's safety. Sooner or later, I will destroy the Yin family." The palace mistress felt that Yun Chuzhou wouldn't survive, but she still comforted, "Little Jiu has always been blessed with a great life. Moreover, she has many tricks up her sleeve. She will definitely be safe. Otherwise, this forbidden area wouldn't have failed." Although Di Baiming knew that the palace master's wife was comforting him, he also felt that little Jiu would be fine. After all, little Jiu had encountered this kind of danger many times in the past, and in the end, she had met with misfortune. This time she would definitely be able to do it. "Baiming, your father will soon come out of seclusion. At that time, perhaps he will have some way to save little Jiu. Don't be too sad." The palace master's wife saw that Di Baiming did not blame her loudly. She did not overdo it. On the contrary, she was even more worried. This silly boy must not be too stubborn. Di Baiming nodded lightly. "Take good care of Yin Xinlian. Little Jiu will find her when she comes out." No matter how she looked at it, the palace master's wife felt that Di Baiming's behavior was a little strange. She could only secretly instruct an Yin to take good care of Di Baiming, and not ask him to do anything stupid. An Yin secretly felt that their revered lord would not do anything stupid. This was because he was already numb from being scared by the ninth miss. The ninth miss would encounter such a thing once in a while. But what exactly was going on in this forbidden land? Chapter 1235. Barren Land. At this moment, Yun Chujio was grilling meat. Ever since she was sucked in 3 days ago, Yun Chujio had been looking for a way out, but to no avail. This fellow thought about it for a moment. He had underestimated his enemy too much. He felt that a little handmaiden would not be able to turn the situation around. He did not expect to be tricked. Dian Shui had previously spread some unfavorable remarks against her, so she should be wary of her. She had to learn from her mistakes in the future. It might be too smooth sailing recently, so her vigilance had also become lower. When Yun Chujio first came in, she was completely dumbfounded. She felt as if she was in an egg. The edges were very low, and only the middle part was slightly higher. However, it was only slightly higher than Yun Chujio's height. This was a barren land where not a single blade of grass grew. There was no sun in the sky, no moon and no stars, so there was no so-called day and night. It was always dark. Although this place was not completely dark, the progress was very slow. Fortunately, Yun Chujio had the luminous pearl, so it did not affect the lighting. There were only broken stones on the ground. There was not a single living thing. Yun Chujio thought to herself that it was fortunate that there was still air here, or else she would really die. She did not know why the Temple of Immortals had such a forbidden place. Moreover, shouldn't there be a sign on the forbidden place? How could there be no sign at all? If there was a sign, she would not have been tricked by Dian Shui. She did not know that there was a sign on the forbidden area. It was a big rock with the words forbidden area written on it. However, Dian Shui had covered it up with some wild grass, and Yun Chujio's attention was on the 7-star fruit, therefore, she did not see it at all. It was really strange. Normally, the Forbidden Land was either locked up with a person or a demon beast. Why was the Forbidden Land here completely bare? Wasn't it a waste of time? It was simply a waste of land. It would be better to plant a few more spirit fruit trees. Hey, is anyone out of breath? Come out and have a chat? I have delicious food here. Aren't you hungry? Hurry up and come out. Maybe I can save you. Yun Chujio shouted for a long time, but there was no response. She could only continue to grill the meat and fill her stomach first. The gigolo knew that she was trapped here and would definitely think of a way. After a few days, Yun Chujio still did not meet any living creatures. The place was dead silent. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely go crazy. However, Yun Chujio's mental fortitude was very good. She did not think much of it. However, there was one time when she wanted to release Xiao Hanio and the others to relieve her boredom. She was surprised to find that Xiao Hanio and the others looked like they were going to die as soon as they were released. She quickly put them away. Master, you almost killed us. What the hell is outside? It's suffocating. Xiao Hanio complained. Suffocating? I don't feel anything wrong with it. I feel the same as the outside and I feel quite comfortable. Yun Chujio said in confusion. Xiao Hanio and the other two looked at each other. Alright, their black-hearted master was a pervert. The pressure outside was so scary that only their perverted master could not feel it. At that moment, Di Baiming was asking Di Linhan, who had just come out of seclusion. Father, what exactly is going on in that forbidden area? Since young, you have warned me not to go near it. What exactly is locked up there? Is there any way to save little Jiao? Chapter 1236. Qi of Hundun. Di Linhan listened to Di Baiming recount what had happened. He could not help but glare at the lady of the palace hall. Nonsense. Since you know that Dian Shui is restless, why don't you just deal with her? If you deal with her decisively, will there be anything that will happen in the future? The lady of the palace hall was like a little daughter-in-law who had been bullied. Husband, this time it was really my fault. I did not think that a little Dian Shui would be able to cause such a big mess. You should quickly think of a way to save the little rascal. Di Linhan stared helplessly at the palace lord's wife. Then he sighed. That forbidden area has been there ever since the Temple of Immortals had set up our faction. The successive palace lords have always warned the next palace lord that he must not enter that forbidden area. Once he enters, he will definitely die. Father, what exactly is inside that place? Is it that scary? Di Baiming asked anxiously. Di Linhan let out a long sigh. There is no demon beast locked in there. What is sealed in there is the Qi of Hundun. Chi of Hun done? The Chi of Hun done before the heavens and earth were opened? Di Biming asked in surprise. That's right, once a cultivator enters, they will not be able to withstand the immense pressure inside. And naturally they will not be able to survive. Di Biming's mind buzzed. He had not been particularly worried at first. After all, the little nine ghosts had many ideas. But this time he was afraid that the odds were against him. Di Biming forced himself to calm down. He then asked, Father, then why is the forbidden area suddenly closed and I cannot enter? This is also the first time I have encountered such a situation. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be like this. Perhaps the little girl has had some fortuitous encounter? Di Linhan guessed. The palace mistress hurriedly said from the side. Right, the little lass is very clever. Who knows, she might really have had a fortuitous encounter. Di Linhan glared at her. Stop right there, it's all your fault. The palace mistress shrank her neck, not daring to make a sound. Father, is this Chi of Hun done related to our Hall of Immortals? Di Biming didn't know why, but he suddenly thought of this question. This father doesn't know. It's just that ever since the lifelong Saint Hall came into existence, this forbidden ground has always existed. It's hard to say whether our ancestors of the Di clan were there to protect this Chi of Hun done, or to guard this Chi of Hun done. There's a certain fate in the dark. The little lass will definitely be fine. If it wasn't for the fact that there's something strange, the forbidden ground wouldn't have suddenly closed. Di Linhan consoled. He was also afraid that Di Biming would resent the palace lord's wife because of this. Father, can I inform my master about this? Let's see if the old man has any way to save little Jiu. Di Linhan was silent for a moment, and looked at the pleading faces of Di Biming and his wife. He gritted his teeth and said, Forget it. The old man of the Heaven Lake is also a mighty figure who lives in the hearts of the people. I believe that he will keep this a secret. You can ask. Di Biming immediately sent a voice transmission talisman to the old man of the Heaven Lake, and the old man of the Heaven Lake quickly replied, The array formation that can seal off the Chi of Hun done. This old man is also powerless. However, since the array formation of the Forbidden Land was suddenly shut off, it must be because the little girl hasn't died yet. Or it must be another fortuitous encounter. It's better to wait and see. Moreover, the little girl isn't even afraid of the pressure of the heavenly lightning. Perhaps she can withstand the pressure of Hun Dun's Chi. Don't be too worried. When Di Biming heard his master say this, his heart became even more worried. Although little Nine had overcome countless difficulties, this time it was even more difficult than before. Moreover, he couldn't help at all. Could she endure it? Chapter 1237, The Black Bead Yun Chujo counted with her fingers. She had been trapped here for 10 days. Although she did not have to worry about food and drink, it was not a problem to continue like this. She had to think of a way. However, she had used all the methods she could think of. Even cursing the Tian Dao was useless. How could she get out? Yun Chujo finally decided to dig a hole. She felt that since she had nothing to do, she might be able to get out of the underground. Therefore, the guy took the pickaxe and began to dig. After digging a few feet deep, a layer of soil began to appear below, but there were still no signs of life inside. Yun Chujo could not help but complain. Damn it! Was this the time when Hun Dun had yet to open? There was no sun or moon and the sky was so close to the earth. Most importantly, there was not a single living thing. Could it be that I had traveled to the era of Wonton? Haha! The guy clapped his hands. Haha! Then wouldn't I become Pangu? Let me think about it. How did the legend say that Pangu created the world? Whatever, I'll try to see if the kitchen knife can separate the sky and the earth. Yun Chujo held the kitchen knife and cut the edge of the egg. After a few cuts, the edge of the egg really began to rise slowly. Yun Chujo was delighted. There was a door. Hence, this fellow brandished the large kitchen knife and slashed at the egg. The surrounding of the egg gradually rose up. Yun Chujo felt a sense of accomplishment, but it was useless. It was just that the space was a little more spacious. Yun Chujo tried to get the little black bird to come out, but the little black bird was still unable to withstand the pressure from the outside. Xiao Hanyo could not withstand the pressure. Yun Chujo continued to dig the pit. This fellow thought to himself, everyone says that the earth is round, but this Tianyuan continent might also be round. As long as I keep digging, I will definitely be able to dig through it. After digging for 10 days, Yun Chujo did not find anything, let alone where it led to. Just when this fellow was feeling a little discouraged, the black bead flew out from between Yun Chujia's brows and floated in the air. A vortex formed around the black bead, and the gas inside the egg began to rush into the black bead. Yun Chujo was stunned for a moment before she could not help but shout, "Glass ball! If you suck all the air into your body, how am I supposed to breathe? If I die, who will provide you with the power of lightning? You idiot, why aren't you stopping?" The black bead completely ignored her and continued to suck the air into her body. Yun Chujo was so angry that she went to grab the black bead. However, the black bead was very agile and Yun Chujo couldn't grab it at all. Yun Chujo was so angry that she cursed loudly, "Glass ball! You bastard! You idiot! All you did was eat and eat all day. You didn't do a single good thing. Now you want to cut off my path of survival. If I catch you, I will definitely teach you a lesson. Just you wait. If I can get out of here, I will throw you into the spirit beast house of the Tianyuan Academy and suffocate you to death." The black bead trembled. No one knew if it was out of anger or fear, but it continued to absorb the gas. Yun Chujo soon discovered a problem. Although the black bead had been absorbing the gas, however, she did not feel any difficulty in breathing. Could it be that the black bead had only absorbed a portion of the gas in the air? In order to experiment, Yun Chujo released Xiao Hanyo. Although Xiao Hanyo still felt uncomfortable, it felt much better than before. Only then did Yun Chujo confirm that the black bead must be absorbing something in the air. Since it would not have any negative effects on her, it could absorb it if it wanted to. Chapter 1238 Uncle-in-Law. Finally, the black bead had absorbed enough. It flew back to Yun Chujia's forehead with a satisfied expression, and then returned to her dantian. Just as Yun Chujo was about to interrogate the black bead, Yun Chujo felt a white light flash in front of her eyes, and then she fell into a warm embrace. "Little Jio, it's great that you're okay." Di Biming had been waiting in the forbidden area. When he saw Yun Chujo being bounced out, he hugged her in his arms. Just as Yun Chujo was about to get close to Di Biming, she realized that there were two people standing beside her. One was an old witch, and the other was a middle-aged, beautiful uncle. This guy said in a reserved manner, "Big brother Biming, that must be my uncle, right?" Di Biming was filled with guilt and lovesickness when he heard the word uncle. His ears turned slightly red and he let go of Yun Chujo. "Little Jio, this is my father. Father, this is little Jio." Di Linhan sized up Yun Chujo without batting an eyelid. Second level of the spirit sect? This was probably not the little girl's true spirit energy. The little girl's eyes were bright, and it was obvious that she had a temperamental personality. It was the complete opposite of Bei Ming's personality. Di Linhan nodded his head. "Little Jio, this matter was our longevity hall's negligence. We will give you an explanation." "Uncle, you are being too polite when you say that. We are all one family, we don't need any explanation or anything like that. Isn't that right, Aunt?" Yun Chujo looked smilingly at the madam who was pretending to be an ostrich at the side. It was my negligence this time. I will just give you some compensation. But you little scoundrel, you also have to reflect on yourself. If you are not greedy, will you be framed? How could Mingzhu and Bailey Yin be fine? It's all because you are greedy," the palace lord's wife said in a stern manner but in a cowardly manner. "Mother, little Jio has suffered so much. Don't talk about her anymore," Di Biming said disapprovingly. The palace lord's wife almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This little brat really forgot his mother when he had a wife. Bah! This little scoundrel would never be the daughter-in-law of our Di family. Di Linhan coughed and the lady of the hall master and Di Biming did not say a word. It was clear that in this family, Di Linhan's position as the head of the family was unbreakable. "Little Nine Lass, I have heard about the matter between you and Biming from the Lady of the Hall of Immortals. Although our position in the Hall of Immortals does not need to be consolidated through marriage, but Biming has a lot of guts on his shoulders. I hope that his future lady will be able to help him share the burden. And you yourself have a heavenly thunder spirit root that the Tian Dao does not tolerate. Not to mention sharing the burden, I'm afraid that you will also implicate Bei Ming. Di Baiming was about to argue when Di Linhan waved his hand. He gestured for him not to interrupt him. Of course, I am not a pedantic person. As long as you can prove that you have the ability to protect yourself, I will not obstruct your matters. But in the current situation, I really cannot be convinced. A mere serving girl is able to put you in danger. Your vigilance is really too poor. Yun Chujia's heart tightened. Compared to the old witch, this old fogey was much more difficult to deal with, she said solemnly. Uncle, you are right. I was really too careless this time. Because things were going too smoothly in the past, my vigilance has been lowered. However, I will definitely not let such a thing happen again in the future. One day, I will support Brother Bei Ming and stand shoulder to shoulder. Little girl, your tone is not small. Then I will wait and see. How are you going to handle this matter? Di Linhan asked in a deep voice. I will naturally kill Dian Shui. As for Yin Xinlian, I can blackmail the Yin family to make some concessions, and the Temple of Immortals will also gain a lot of benefits. As for me, the life and death arena will be in a month's time anyway. I will kill her myself. Yun Chuzhou said nonchalantly. Chapter 1239 was not entirely out of the question. Oh? You're letting Yin Xinlian off just like that? Aren't you feeling indignant? Di Linhan was a little shocked in his heart, but his expression did not change as he asked. Indignant? I, Yun Chujia's enemy, will only be more appeased if I settle it with my own hands. Moreover, Yin Xinlian would only be able to add fuel to the fire at most. Even if she was convicted of the crime, she would not be able to do anything to her. Why don't we exchange some benefits for the Temple of Immortals? No matter what, the Temple of Immortals will belong to Big Brother Bei Ming and me in the future. The more money we have, the better. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. The corners of Di Linhan's eyes twitched a little. Was this little lass trying to intimidate him in a disguised way? However, this little lass had quite a good eye for things, and she had considered all aspects of the matter. He would have to wait and see. If she could really protect herself and Bei Ming liked her, it was not impossible. We will do as you say. However, how did you get out of the Forbidden Land? What is the situation inside? Di Linhan changed the topic and asked the question of the Forbidden Land. Yun Chujia's heart turned a few times. She said in a picky manner. It was like a big egg inside. I looked like Hundun had not opened yet, so I took the big kitchen knife and cut it open. Then I was bounced out. What exactly is that place? It was deserted inside and there was no sign of life. Di Linhan and the other two were shocked. They did not expect Yun Chuzhou to be able to guess the essence of the forbidden area. What happened to you guys? Did I say something wrong? Yun Chuzhou asked in confusion when she saw the three of them looking confused. Little Jiu, the energy of Hundun was sealed there. Maybe you broke the array by accident and were sent out. Although Di Baiming felt that this explanation was a little far-fetched, there was no other explanation. Di Linhan also felt that it was a little unbelievable, but since he was fine, then everyone was happy. It was better to deal with the Yin family first. After Yin Xinlian was placed under house arrest, she used a voice transmission talisman to tell her father about the matter. Yin Qinghua, the head of the Yin family. When Yin Qinghua heard that his precious daughter was under house arrest, he immediately rushed to the Temple of Immortals. However, both Di Baiming and the mistress of the palace lord did not have the mood to bother with him and kept him in the guest room. Finally, the guards of the Palace of Immortals came over to invite him. Yin Qinghua brought Yin Xinlian to the guest room. After Yin Qinghua entered the guest room, he saw Di Linhan sitting on the main seat. Di Baiming and the mistress of the palace lord sat on both sides. A young girl was sitting on the chair next to Di Baiming. She should be Yun Chuzhou, who had always been against the Yin family. It seemed that she had been rescued from the forbidden area, which made things easier. As long as she was not dead, he could just give her some compensation. Greetings to the palace lord. The palace lord's wife, your eminence. Yin Qinghua cupped his fists. Di Linhan was rather polite. Palace Lord Yin, please take a seat. As I have been busy saving little Joe recently, I have been neglectful. I hope you can forgive me. In Qinghua's face was filled with guilt. Palace Lord, although my daughter is not the main culprit, but she had unintentionally become an accomplice. I am really ashamed. My daughter is still young, and I acted a little impulsively. I hope you can forgive me, Palace Lord. In Qinghua did not refuse. It was useless to refuse. With the methods of the Hall of Immortals, they would definitely be able to interrogate that maid thoroughly. Although Xinlian did not directly harm Yun Chuzhou, she helped to invite her, adding fuel to the fire. It was impossible to get her even if one wanted to. Chapter 1240. Exterminate the Yin clan. The corners of Di Linhan's mouth curled up. Clan head Yin, little Jiu is someone that the Temple of Immortals is protecting. Your Yin clan has repeatedly tried to kill her. What is the meaning of this? I heard that the Yin clan has been developing quite well recently. Their territory has expanded quite a bit, and they have also taken in many disciples. I believe that your Yin clan must have some ideas, right? Yin Qinghua immediately understood Di Linhan's intentions. He quickly stood up and said, Hall Master, this is purely a misunderstanding. You might not know this, but I have a useless nephew who is also studying at the Tianyuan Academy. He had some friction with Yun Chuzhou. This rascal complained to my second brother. My second brother has been indulging his child and has done some foolish things. I have already taught him a lesson. I promise that this will not happen again. Yun Chuzhiu's mouth twitched in her heart. This Yin family was really a nest of snakes and rats. One by one, they framed another, and all of them were not good people. Di Linhan gave a non-committal smile and said, Patriarch Yin, little Joe the last gave me a recording stone. The Yin family's secret guards do not place much importance on our Temple of Immortals. Patriarch Yin, if your Yin family has any thoughts towards the Temple of Immortals, we can use real swords and spears to spar. After all, our Temple of Immortals has always held the #1 position in the Tianyuan continent, and it is inevitable that some people will be unconvinced. Yin Qinghua started to break out in cold sweat. A real battle with the Hall of Immortals? What a joke! Who would be able to defeat the Hall of Immortals? Hall Master, it is indeed our Yin clan's fault for what happened to Yun Chuzhou. We are willing to fork out 10 million high-grade spirit stones to compensate the Hall of Immortals as a token of our apology. Yin Qinghua thought about it and decided that he had to pay the price to avoid disaster. Seeing that Di Linhan was not speaking, Yun Chuzhou knew that it was time for her to go on stage, hence she howled, Io! My life is so bitter. She had thought that with Auntie protecting me, I would be able to live in peace and stability. She had not expected that the Temple of Immortals would not be able to function well either, and that there would be people who would purposely slap the Temple of Immortals in the face. He has harmed me time and time again. If not for my life, I would have died thousands of times. 10 million high-grade spirit stones? Pa! Is my little life so worthless? Is the face of the Temple of Immortals so worthless? This is to get rid of beggars. How shameless! The corners of Di Linhan's eyes twitched violently once. Yin Qinghua, on the other hand, was extremely furious. This Yun Chuzhou was indeed just like what Xinlian had said. She was really detestable and difficult to deal with. With her meddling, he could only raise the price again. Miss Yun, our Yin family has indeed done something wrong, but it takes more than one slap. You have also done something wrong. How about this 15 million we shake hands and make peace? Pooey! You shameless old man, who wants to shake hands with you? Are you trying to take advantage of me? Yun Chuzhou placed her hands on her waist and shouted angrily. Yin Qinghua's old face immediately turned red, and he was trembling with anger. Little Joe girl, don't be rude. Step down now. Di Linhan managed to hold back his laughter after much difficulty. In his heart, he somewhat understood why his cold son would like this little girl. The cold personality of the northern desert. Only a girl like this could open up his heart. Yun Chuzhou pursed her lips. Uncle, although my words are not pleasant to hear, but they come from the bottom of my heart. The Yin clan has publicly smacked the face of our Temple of Immortals. No matter what you say, we cannot let them off so easily. Otherwise, if other powers were to follow suit in the future, Would our Temple of Immortals still be able to live? If you ask me, at the very least, I want the Yin clan to compensate us with 1/5 of our share of the Spirit Stone mine. Not even a little less. Otherwise we can just fuck them and wipe out the Yin clan. At the same time they can give it to me as a dowry in the future. Chapter 1241. Being uncultured was truly terrifying. Yin Qinghua was so angry that he didn't even care about his status. He angrily shouted, 1/5 of the Spirit Stone mine share? Why aren't you going to rob it? Patriarch Yin, what you said is wrong. What do you mean I'm not going to rob it? The Temple of Immortals has always yearned for peace and disdained to rob your things. You were clearly the ones who provoked us and I asked you to kill me? I asked your daughter to frame me? When you do something wrong you have to bear the consequences. You are so old, don't you understand that? It's so scary to be uncultured. Yun Chujo curled her lips. She said disdainfully. You. This is outrageous. You are twisting logic. Uncle-in-law, you have seen it too. They have no remorse at all. Otherwise, forget it. They would rather sacrifice their lives than their wealth, and just push Yin Xinlian into that forbidden land, and let her be trapped there for a lifetime. Yin Qinghua was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He was also an old fox. Naturally, he could see that Yun Chujia's nonsense was tacitly approved by Di Linhan. She wanted to make the Yin family bleed more. Di Baiming had not said anything all this while. At this moment, he said indifferently, Patriarch Yin, my men accidentally discovered a secret of your Yin family. Perhaps the Jiwai Yuan sect, Medicine Valley, and the Blood Demon sect would be very interested. When Yin Qinghua heard this, he was immediately shocked. Impossible. Could it be that Di Baiming had discovered that matter? Impossible. Patriarch Yin, every faction will do something like planting a spy. Originally, it's not a big deal. However, destroying the other party's protective array, isn't this a little too much? Di Baiming said coldly. Yin Qinghua almost fell to the ground. He actually knew that if this matter was found out by the other factions, their Yin clan would become the target of public criticism. The current plan was to first stabilize the Temple of Immortals, and then make those spies stop. Only then could they cover it up. Temple Master, Your Eminence, 1/5 of the share of Spirit Stones is really too difficult to accept. 1/10 is the most our Yin clan can bear. Yin Qinghua said through gritted teeth. Di Linhan sighed. Since that's the case, then let it be. Don't blame me for being greedy. Little Jiu has been entrusted to us by our old friend, so we naturally have to protect her. Your Yin clan has repeatedly tried to harm her. If our Hall of Longevity doesn't do anything, it will be hard to avoid people gossiping about her. Yin Qinghua was so angry that he started to twitch. He had really taken advantage of her and had to agree. This matter is indeed the fault of our Yin clan. In the future, such a thing will never happen again. Please rest assured, Hallmaster. Uncle, as the saying goes, the longer the better. Since the Yin clan head has agreed, it's best to put it on paper. There are some people here who might not admit to it later, Yun Chujo said leisurely. Yin Qinghua was so angry that he gnashed his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. He could only stamp the Yin clan head seal on the contract drawn up by the Hall of Immortals. Just like that, 1/10 of the Spirit Stones fell into the hands of the Hall of Immortals. Yin Xinlian's long fingernails had already sunk into her palms. The hatred in her heart was about to explode. Yun Chujiu, I will definitely take back today's humiliation. I will take your life on the life and death arena. Even if the Hall of Immortals wanted to vent their anger on what happened in the academy, there was nothing they could do. Uncle-in-law, the Yin clan is so sincere. Guests are guests. Should we prepare a good meal to entertain them? Yun Chujiu sneered in her heart when she saw Yin Xinlian's expression. Yin Xinlian, this is only the beginning. How dare you provoke me? I'll torture you to death. Chapter 1242 did not even have a window. How could Yin Qinghua have the mood to eat? He barely suppressed the rage in his heart, and after a few polite words, he led Yin Xinlian away. Seeing that they had left, Yun Chujo said with a smile, Aunt, Uncle, I have done a meritorious deed, right? This 1/10 share of Spirit Stones is more than 10 or 20 million. Don't you guys want to reward me as well? The wife of the palace lord was a little better off. After all, she had seen Yoon Chujia's shameless behavior many times before, but this was the first time Di Linhan had seen it. The shock in her heart could be imagined. However, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Di Linhan said without batting an eyelid, "My wife, I remember that you said you wanted to talk to me about something. What is it? Let's go to my study room and talk." Yoon Chujio watched helplessly as Di Linhan left with the palace master's wife. Before she left, the palace master's wife curled her lips at her, obviously mocking her. Yoon Chujio stomped her feet in anger. "Prince Charming, why is your father even worse than your mother? Bullying others?" This fellow wanted to say that he was shameless, but he was afraid that Di Biming would be unhappy, so he changed his words to bullying others. Di Biming smiled dotingly. "They are playing with you." "Humph. Forget it, they are just stingy, they just don't want to give me spirit stones." Yoon Chujio pouted. Di Biming saw Yoon Chujia's charming appearance, and his heart instantly softened. He hugged Yoon Chujio and kissed her. Yoon Chujio was dizzy from the kiss. She thought to herself, the gigolo had learned his lesson and kissed her whenever they were not on speaking terms. When the two of them were having an intimate moment, they heard a phone call out from outside. "Miss Qin Mingzhu, Miss Qin, and Miss Bailey Yen are here to see you." Di Biming frowned and had no choice but to let go of Yoon Chujio. His desire was not satisfied, so his face naturally did not look any better. "Mingzhu, Bailey Yen, greetings, Your Excellency." Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yen bowed to Di Biming. Di Biming looked at them indifferently, and then said coldly, "Miss Qin, I'm not that familiar with you. Next time you should bring your surname with you. Could it be that you're dissatisfied with the Qin surname?" Qin Ming's face instantly flushed red, and she almost fainted from embarrassment. She could only say, "Yes, Ming, I understand." Bailey Yen was very proud in her heart. Yin Xinlian had already been eliminated, and now Qin Mingzhu was being dissed by Her Excellency. It seemed that she had the greatest chance. "Junior Yun, it's great that you're alright. It's obvious that Yin Xinlian has ulterior motives. From now on, Senior will protect you." Bailey Yen said through this matter. She felt that the palace master's wife was still very concerned about Yoon Chujio, so she said this. Yoon Chujio had already retreated to the side as a quail when Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yen entered. Now that she heard Bailey Yen say this, she said happily, "Then thank you, Senior Bailey Yen." Although Di Biming wanted to chase Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yen out, he knew that it was not the time to announce his relationship with Yoon Chujio. He could only say in a low voice, "What a noise. You guys can chat. I still have something to do." Although Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yen felt extremely regretful, they were already used to Di Biming's cold attitude. They were a little disappointed. They immediately asked Yoon Chujio, "Junior Yun, how did you get out of the forbidden area? Did you let Yin Xinlian off just like that?" "That's right, the hall master didn't ask the Yin family to make any compensation?" Yoon Chujio said with a blank look. "After I fell into the forbidden area, I didn't know anything. Later my uncle saved me. As for compensation, when they were discussing official matters, they activated the isolation array. I don't know how they discussed it." Yoon Chujio was very smart. If they wanted to get information from her, they didn't even have a window, let alone a door. Chapter 1243. Shameless Father and Mother Di Linhan's Study. The lady of the palace hall had a noble and overbearing appearance in front of outsiders, but in front of Di Linhan, she had suddenly turned into a little fangirl. "Linhan, the incident this time was indeed my negligence. I had thought that even a little handmaiden would not be able to turn the heavens upside down, but who would have thought that she had stirred up such a huge disaster? Please forgive me this time." The lady of the palace hall saw that Di Linhan's expression was not worried. She said humbly in a low voice, What kind of banquet are you throwing every now and then? I'm not going to scold you. If you have nothing better to do, then go out and show off. I'm not going to scold you either, but look at how the rear hall has been controlled by you. If it wasn't for the fact that little Jiu was so lucky, if she had really died within the forbidden grounds, I'm afraid that the northern seas would never forgive you for the rest of your life." Di Linhan said furiously. He had been worried about Yoon Chujia's safety for the past few days, and he had not had the time to settle the score with the palace lord's wife. Now he had settled the score. Linhan, I have indeed been a little indulgent towards them recently, and I will take good care of them. Besides, that little rascal has always been clever and quick-witted. Who would have thought that he would be tricked because of his gluttony? He had really nearly gotten me killed. You are still trying to quibble. No matter how clever she is still just a child. Moreover, she is not familiar with this place, and it is inevitable that there will be times when she will be negligent. You clearly know that Dian Shui and Yin Xinlian are up to no good, and you still gave them a chance to show off. Do you still have a point? Di Linhan shouted sternly. The wife of the palace lord shrunk her neck in guilt, her eyes reddened. Ling Han, I know that I am useless. I do not have as high a spiritual power as your 3 junior sisters, and I do not have the same family background as them. You must be regretting marrying me. Sabasobi, since that is the case, I will ask for permission to step down from the hall. I will make room for them. The more the palace mistress spoke, the sadder she became, and her tears continued to flow down. Di Linhan was still fuming with rage when he saw that the palace mistress was crying. He immediately went numb. Jinsei, I just wanted to give you a reminder to properly tidy up the rear hall. I didn't mean anything by it. What do you mean by you didn't mean anything? You were so good to me in the past, but now that I've aged, you're angry at me. The palace mistress cried even more sadly. Di Linhan said in a fluster. Jinsei, what do you mean by aged? In my heart, you are the most beautiful. Really? When the palace lord's wife heard Di Linhan say that, her tears turned into a smile. Di Linhan looked at the palace lord's wife's tearful smile and his eyes darkened. Of course it's true. Jinsei, that little brat Beiming is getting more and more disobedient. Let's give him another little brother or sister. The lattice face immediately turned red and she spat. You shameless old man. Beiming is already so old. Why would he still want a child? The outcome is not important. The process of my hard work is very important. Di Linhan said as he carried the lady up, and with a wave of his hand, a secret room appeared behind the bookshelf. After the two of them walked in, everything returned to normal. Di Beiming walked to the door of the study. Initially, he wanted to ask Di Linhan something, but he did not expect to hear the conversation between his shameless parents. His face turned red and he had no choice but to turn around and leave. After Yoon Chuzhou finished dealing with Qin Mingzhu and Bai Liyan, she returned to her own courtyard. As soon as she entered the house, she was embraced by Di Beiming. The two of them were naturally entangled. Although Di Beiming really wanted more, but because of Yoon Chujia's physical condition, he had no choice but to endure it. Prince Charming, actually something else happened in the Forbidden Land. The gas inside is different from outside. Xiao Hanyo and the rest. Yoon Chuzhou saw that Di Beiming was trying his best to restrain his desire and started to change the topic. Chapter 1244. Di Beiming, who had a misconception after hearing Yoon Chujia's words. Di Beiming felt uneasy again. There were too many unimaginable things happening to little Jiao. Moreover, according to what she said, she had transmigrated from another world. Would she transmigrate back in the future? Yoon Chuzhou saw that Di Beiming did not look too good and asked worriedly, Prince Charming, what's wrong? Are you worried that I brought the things from your forbidden land? Silly. Why would I feel bad for those things? Little Jiao, if I give you a chance to travel back in time, will you go back? Of course. Then I can see Chi-Chi. Yoon Chuzhou said without hesitation. Di Beiming's face immediately darkened, and his eyes were full of hurt. Little Jiao, you actually... Di Beiming could not continue speaking. He slammed the door angrily and left. Yoon Chuzhou looked at the originally sturdy door that was broken into several pieces. She was dumbfounded. Did she say something wrong? Why did this gigolo get sick again? He had not vented his anger with the door for a long time. Why was he fighting with the door again today? Yoon Chuzhou was puzzled, but Di Beiming felt that he was not well. He was afraid that Yoon Chuzhou would leave in the future, but he was also angry at Yoon Chujia's heartlessness. Yoon Chuzhou had no choice but to ask Manager Luo to change the door. Manager Luo was puzzled. Why would this little devil vent his anger on the door? For a few days, Yun Chujo did not see Di Biming anymore. Even the palace master's wife and Di Linhan did not summon her anymore. It was as if they had left her here to fend for herself. Fuck. What were they doing? Could it really be that because she had taken a little bit of their Hundun's energy, this family did not bother with her anymore? What a stingy family. Just as Yun Chujo was feeling indignant, Di Biming came. Yun Chujo saw Di Biming's appearance. She was shocked. Prince Charming, what kind of blow did you take? Why did you become so haggard? Although this melancholic aura is quite seductive, my heart aches. Who bullied you? Tell me, it'll help you take revenge. Why did you drink? You didn't let me drink, but you actually drank. This is too much. Di Biming smiled bitterly. Who bullied me? It's you, you heartless black thing, bullying me. Am I not good to you? Why are you so heartless to leave me? Yun Chujo was confused. When did I leave you? Tianyuan Academy is about to start, of course I have to leave. Yes, I admit that I'm not strong enough to protect you from any harm. But every time you suffer, do you know how much I feel sorry for you? I wish that I was the one in danger and not you. Actually, I only need to trap you in the Temple of Immortals, and you won't be in any danger. Then we can always be together. But I know that that is not the life you want, so I let you go on your own. I just need to quietly protect you. But why do you want to leave me? What I did not do well, you can tell me. Why do you want to leave me? You have so many incredible things happen. Even my master could not explain. Do you know how worried I was? How scared I was? I was afraid that I could not protect you, afraid that you leave me. I did not think that you are really heartless, not at all reluctant. I really do not have any position in your heart. Chapter 1245. You are a thorn in my heart. When Di Biming finished speaking, he hugged Yun Chujo one last time. Yun Chujo was almost out of breath. Little Joe, I will never let you leave. Unless you kill me, I will never let you leave me no matter what. Yun Chujo roared angrily. Gigolo. What's wrong with you? When did I say I'm leaving you? You came here to get drunk? Are you looking for a beating? Di Biming heard Yun Chujo's angry roar. He also roared with red eyes. You still don't admit it? You were the one who said it yourself. If you could transmigrate, you would immediately transmigrate back. This isn't leaving me. If you went to another continent, I could still find you. But you've transmigrated to that bullshit modern era. Where can I find you? Yun Chujo was stunned by the roar. She finally understood why Di Biming was making such a scene. It turned out to be a misunderstanding. Prince Charming, you've misunderstood my meaning. I thought you were asking me to give me a chance to transmigrate back. It's a round-trip ticket, but you actually meant a one-way ticket? What round-trip ticket, one-way ticket? You're still trying to quibble. You didn't even hesitate and directly said that you wanted to go back. Black thing, you've really disappointed me. Prince Charming, you've really misunderstood. I thought that when you said transmigration you could go or come back, just like returning to the Azure Mystic Continent to visit my grandfather. How could I bear to part with you? Besides, I also can't bear to part with grandfather and the others. Yun Chujo knew that Di Biming had misunderstood. She patiently explained. Is what you said true? You're not lying to me? Then if you wear it back, you won't be able to return. Are you going to wear it? I'm not going to wear it. Are you absolutely sure? It really can't be any more true. If you don't believe me, I swear. Di Biming did not say anything. He hugged Yun Chujo tightly once again. It's really good that the black thing won't leave me. After a long while, Di Biming finally let go of Yun Chujo. His face was slightly unnatural, and the tipsiness had also dissipated a lot. Yun Chujo, this fellow was not going to do it. She poked Di Biming's forehead with her finger and started lecturing him. Pretty boy, how old are you? Don't you know how to tell me clearly if there's anything? You even learned to drown your sorrows with alcohol. Are you really that capable? Don't you have any confidence in me? You even said that you don't have any status in my heart? You don't have any status? You are the nail in my heart. How do you still want to have status? I'll dig out my heart for you to see. You have a long mouth just to eat? Wouldn't you have asked me at that time? Is it fun to hold it in? If you have something to say, just say it. If you don't say it, how will others know what you are thinking? Do you want me to guess? I don't have the time. Let me tell you, pretty boy, in the future, if you play the guessing game with me again, see how I'll deal with you. The palace master's wife had heard Manager Luo's report that Di Biming had gone to Yun Chujia's courtyard drunk. She had rushed over in fear that something unexpected would happen. Unexpectedly, what she saw was Yun Chujio lecturing Di Biming like a grandson. The palace master's wife almost clapped her hands in approval. What she said was absolutely right. This bastard had been quiet since he was young. The bigger he got, the more serious he became. He deserved to be scolded. This little rascal was really sharp-tongued. Only a little rascal like Beiming could cure him. Alas, it was a pity that he had a heavenly lightning spirit root. Thinking of this, the hall master's wife coughed twice and said, "Little ninth lass, come out. I have something to tell you." Chapter 1246 has been accepted by me as my master Di Biming, and Yun Chujio never thought that there would still be people listening to the walls outside. The two of them were so angry that they didn't even notice. Now that they heard the voice of the hall master's wife, both Di Biming and Yun Chujio felt a little embarrassed. However, Yun Chujio was a little more thick-skinned. She pinched Di Biming's arm and left the room. Di Biming was pinched until he grinned and then laughed. The pain meant that he was not dreaming. Little Joe would never leave him. This was great. "Auntie, why didn't you come into the house when you came? Although my courtyard used to be quite shabby, it's still not bad after cleaning it up," Yun Chujio said with a smile. The palace mistress originally wanted to scold Yun Chujio, but when she heard Yun Chujio mention the courtyard, she couldn't help but feel a little guilty. She went straight to the point and said, "You've stayed in the Hall of Longevity for quite a long time already. Moreover, Tianyuan Academy is about to start. Manager Luo will send the three of you back to Tianyuan Academy tomorrow. You should get ready." "What? Leave tomorrow? Aunt, I really can't bear to part with you." The hall master's wife thought to herself, "Humph, what a nice thing to say, can't bear to part with me? You can't bear to part with that little brat, right? Aunt, I'm leaving now, don't you and uncle need to give me something?" Yun Chujio said shamelessly. "Give you something? You swept away all the things in the spaceship and borrowed money from Manager Luo to reward her. You also extorted 450,000 high-grade spirit stones and went to the canteen to ask for help when you had nothing to do. The ingredients in the canteen, which could have been used for half a year, were destroyed in a few days by you. Also, the forest of spirit fruits was almost gone by you. What else do you want? If you really want to give it to me, I'll give you 4 words. Take care of yourself." The palace master's wife left angrily after saying that. She felt that if she did not leave now, she might be tricked by the little girl again. When that time came, she would be cheated of money again. Yun Chujio touched her nose and turned around to ask Di Biming, "Prince Charming, why did your mother say that? I feel that I'm so greedy. I didn't take much food. I just took it according to my half a year's worth of food." "Little Joe, my mother has such a personality, don't take it to heart. If you still want them, I'll immediately arrange for someone to cook them for you." "That's not necessary, I'm not a greedy person." The corner of Di Biming's eyes twitched. He had already taken half a year's worth of dishes, how could he still be greedy? "Little Joe, after we go back, I'm afraid that Deputy Dineen and the others will make things difficult for you. If they make things difficult for you, you can just retaliate. I'll take care of everything." "Oh right, Prince Charming, you still don't know, right? I have a new backer in the Tianyuan Academy. That dry old man is the dry old man that the library wanted me to copy books from. I've taken him in as my master. Haha, that old man is obviously very awesome. If Yin Haoyu wants to bully me, no way." Yun Chujio said smugly. "Taken in as your master? Why does it sound so awkward? Shouldn't he be the one being accepted as his disciple? Although Senior Zhang hasn't had much contact with him, his spiritual power is very high and he is quite mysterious. With him protecting you, it is naturally very good. However, he has a perverse personality. Why would he accept you as his disciple?" Di Biming asked, puzzled. Yun Chujio told him everything, and also told him about the mid-year competition. Although Di Biming had solved the knot in his heart and knew that Yun Chujo would not leave, when he heard that Yun Chujo had taken in another remnant soul, the sense of crisis in his heart was even stronger. He kept feeling that these things seemed to be unrelated, in fact they were all inextricably linked. He had to hurry up his cultivation and increase his strength. There were too many strange things that had happened to little Jiu. Moreover, the divine devil hall might make a comeback. Only then could he protect little Jiu. Chapter 1247. Rambling boyfriend Di Biming chatted with Yun Chujo for a while more, exhorting her repeatedly. In the end he gave Yun Chujo several concealment talismans and sudden rupture talismans. When Yun Chujo heard Di Biming's repeated exhortations, there was only one feeling in her heart. Why did it feel like she didn't have a new boyfriend but a new father? That's not right. It should be her mother who's nagging like this. If Di Biming, who was exhorting her, knew that Yun Chujo was cursing in her heart, he would probably smack Yun Chujo to death right away. The next day before leaving, Yun Chujo said shamelessly, "Auntie, uncle, remember to visit me often. I'll miss you guys. I'll come again during the holidays. And tell the canteen to prepare more ingredients. It's better to be safe than sorry. How can they prepare so little?" Di Linhan's expression was still rather calm, and the lady of the palace lord pursed her lips. "You only know how to eat all day long. Go back and cultivate properly, and be more careful on the life and death arena. If you really die, what are you going to eat?" Yun Chujo was already used to the lady of the palace lord's unique way of caring, and she grinned. "And don't worry, the one who died must be that little bitch In Xinlian." The palace master's wife coldly snorted and did not say anything. She waved her hand, indicating that she could leave. Only then did this fellow follow manager Luo to the entrance of the Palace of Immortals. Everyone boarded the flying spirit tool. Manager Luo was still in charge of taking care of their daily lives. There were also dozens of secret guards from the Palace of Immortals. Yun Chujo boarded the flying spirit tool and took a look. She could not help but twitch her lips. She reckoned that the old witch was afraid that she would take the things away again, so she did not add anything. She was really stingy. 3 days later, the flying spirit tool arrived at the Tianyuan Academy. Manager Luo made some polite remarks and left with his people. Yun Chujo greeted Qin Mingzhu and Bailey Yan and went straight back to the dormitory. After a simple wash, she went to see Feng Ming and the other two. Feng Ming and the other two had been cultivating in the Tianyuan Academy during the holidays, and had already broken through to the 3rd level of the spirit sect. The reason why they had broken through so slowly before was because they had broken through too quickly in the Qingxian continent. They had been consolidating their foundations. Yun Chujo gave them quite a number of spirit fruits and delicacies and then asked, "Is there anything new this month?" Feng Ming and the other two shook their heads. "I haven't heard anything new. Instead, many people are discussing the matter of you and In Xinlian going on the life and death arena." Originally, many people didn't think highly of you. However, ever since you passed the trial tower, a portion of them thought highly of you. Now, the people who thought highly of you and In Xinlian should be 50-50. Junior sister Xiaojiu, are you confident? Yun Chujo smiled smugly. When have I ever done something that I'm not confident of? Since that little bitch In Xinlian is courting death, I'll fulfill her wish. Junior sister Xiaojiu, although you have many tricks up your sleeve, you must not underestimate your enemy, Shi Xian instructed. Yes, I understand. I will definitely be more careful. Yun Chujo chatted with them for a while more before heading to the library to look for the dried-up old man. Unfortunately, she did not find anything. It was only then that the dried-up old man remembered that he had said that he would be in closed-door cultivation for 2 to 3 months, so she could only hop over to see Dean Huangfu. After Yun Chujo saw Dean Huangfu, she took out many spirit fruits and delicacies and gave them to Dean Huangfu. "Dean, this is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it." When Dean Huangfu heard Yun Chuji's words, the corners of his eyes twitched. "You seem to be doing quite well in the Palace of Immortals. Otherwise, you wouldn't have plundered so many things." Chapter 1248. The Life and Death Arena. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Lord Dean, look at your use of words. These were all given to me by my aunt and uncle, okay? They wished they could give me the entire hall of eternal life, but I rejected them. I am still very self-aware. The corners of Dean Huangfu's eyes twitched violently. You are really shameless. Yun Chujo chatted with Dean Huangfu for a while more before heading back to her dormitory. This fellow was thinking about the life and death arena as he hopped around. Just now, Dean Huangfu had specially told her that any method could be used on the life and death arena. Talismans, poisons, spirit beasts, formation discs, anything could be used. As the daughter of the Yin family head, not only did Yin Xinlian have many good things, she was also proficient in formations. It was likely that she would be very difficult to deal with when the time came. Yun Chujo calculated that there were less than 10 days left before she and Yin Xinlian's life and death arena. She had to hurry up and cultivate and strive to break through once more. Even if she could not catch up to Yin Xinlian, it would be fine to narrow the gap a little. Moreover, although she had many good things, many of them could not be seen in the light. Otherwise, it might attract the covetous eyes of others. Therefore, she had to think of a foolproof plan. 2 days later, Tianyuan Academy started its semester, and the academy returned to its usual lively scene. Yun Chujo had been training hard during her spare time. Unfortunately, things did not go as she wished. She did not break through again until the day before the competition, and her spiritual power stopped at the 8th level of the spirit sect. Yun Chujo felt that things were not good. It was said that Yin Xinlian, that little bitch, had already broken through to the 2nd level of the spirit saint realm. Although she had killed many demon beasts that were equivalent to spiritual venerables in the trial tower. But that was different. First of all, in the trial tower, she knew that she could not die, so she naturally acted without scruples. Second, no matter how smart those demon beasts were, they were still demon beasts. Yin Xinlian, that little bitch, was much smarter. Finally, in the trial tower, she could use all kinds of methods without scruples. On the life and death arena, she had a lot of scruples. Yun Chujo shook her head. Damn it, if it really didn't work out, she would use the sudden rupture talisman that the gigolo gave her and fight until both sides were injured. Anyway, she had the Guaichao to cheat, so she would definitely be able to keep her life. The next afternoon, almost all the students who didn't have classes in Tianyuan Academy ran to Tianyuan Square, including Dean Huangfu and the others. This was because the status of both sides on the life and death arena was special, although they couldn't help each other. But they still had to see the process clearly. When the time came, when the relatives of one of the parties came to verify, they could also explain the process clearly. The time was set at the beginning of the afternoon. Yin Xinlian arrived just after noon, while Yun Chujo never showed up. When everyone recalled Yun Chujo's performance in the previous 2 competitions, they weren't anxious. They guessed that Yun Chujo was planning to come at the right time. As expected, when it was almost time, Yun Chujo walked over under the escort of the Huang class students. She looked like she was leading a group of generals. She looked valiant and valiant. If they were to compete, Yun Chujo would win. Yin Sulian snorted coldly and said, "She's just putting on a show to impress the public. My sister will definitely kill this bitch today." Immediately, Yin Sulian's lackeys echoed, "That's right. A 2nd-level spirit sect cultivator who wants to defeat a 2nd-level Holy Spirit Realm Senior Yin is simply wishful thinking. Yun Chujo is dead for sure. She still thinks that she's so amazing after passing the trial tower. It's just because the weapon spirit went easy on her. I guess that in less than an hour, Yun Chujo will be slapped to death by Senior Yin. An hour? I think half an hour will be enough. Ha ha ha." Chapter 1249. I'll give you 3 moves on the stage. Yin Xinlian stared at Yun Chujo with a malicious gaze. "Bitch, because of you, our Yin family lost 32 secret guards. Because of you, our Yin family lost 1/10 of our spirit stone mine share. Because of you. Eve offended the palace master's wife. Today I must kill you." Yun Chujo slowly walked to the bottom of the life and death arena and jumped onto it. After the 2 of them got on the life and death arena, a layer of spiritual power covered the life and death arena. Only when both sides agreed to end the competition would the spiritual power cover be opened. Of course, if one side died, the other side could also open the spiritual power cover. In Xinlian didn't talk to Yun Chuzhou at all. She directly attacked Yun Chuzhou with her spiritual power. In Xinlian was practicing the middle-level physical transformation technique, and the physical transformation turned out to be a snake. It spat out its tongue and pounced on Yun Chuzhou. What kind of spiritual power does a person turn into? TSK, people are vicious, and the spiritual power generated by the physical transformation is also so vicious. It's a perfect match, Yun Chuzhou said as she dodged In Xinlian's spiritual power attack. In Xinlian still didn't say anything and continued to attack Yun Chuzhou with her spiritual power. Yun Chuzhou dodged 3 moves before she started to fight back. She said with conviction, In Xinlian, although you are not kind, I cannot be unrighteous. On account that you are older than me, I will let you have 3 moves. In Xinlian shouted angrily, Yun Chuzhou, you are the one who is older. In Xinlian, since you admit that I am older than you, then do you have the ability to let me have 3 moves? In your dreams. In Xinlian did not continue to argue. She knew that Yun Chuzhou's mouth was very sharp. She could not be fooled, otherwise she would be easily affected by Yun Chuzhou. However, Yun Chuzhou would not let her be so quiet. Her small mouth kept talking non-stop. TSK, you really are shameless. No wonder a third-year student actually went on the life and death arena with a little girl like me. What a bully. One of the 3 beauties of Tianyuan Academy? You are far inferior to senior sister Qin and senior sister Bai Li. It's fine if you don't look as good as them, but the most important thing is that you are wicked and shameless. But that's right. Yurin family has a long history of learning, and that little bitchin Sulian is no good either. You two are a pair of shameless bastards. In Xinlian was so angry that her face turned red, and the attacks on her hands became even fiercer. However, Yun Chuzhou was like a slippery little loach and she couldn't hurt her at all. In Xinlian gritted her teeth. Anyway, she could use any moves on the life and death arena, so why should she fight with her spiritual power attacks? Thinking of this, In Xinlian summoned a spiritual beast from her spiritual beast pouch. The onlookers couldn't help but exclaim. What In Xinlian summoned was actually a level 21 three-eyed lightning marten. A level 21 spiritual beast was equivalent to a cultivator of the 1st to 3rd level of the spirit saint realm. Yun Chuzhou had enough trouble dealing with In Xinlian alone. If this three-eyed lightning marten was added to the mix, Yun Chuzhou would definitely be finished. Although Yun Chuzhou was mentally prepared, when she saw that In Xinlian had actually created such a high-level spirit beast, she was still a little apprehensive. If she released the 3 dumb cuties, she would naturally be able to deal with this three-eyed lightning marten. However, she was afraid that it would attract trouble. Forget it, she would hold on for a while. If she really couldn't do it, she would talk about it later. Hence, Yun Chuzhou started to block the attacks of In Xinlian and the three-eyed lightning marten. Not long after, she was unable to block them. This fellow gave In Xinlian an evil smile, and In Xinlian's heart was shocked. What kind of evil scheme was Yun Chuzhou up to this time? Chapter 1250. Rogue fighting style. In Xinlian was on guard, and once again attacked Yun Chuzhou with her spiritual power. Unexpectedly, Yun Chuzhou did not dodge at all. Instead, she aimed several purple needles at the three-eyed lightning marten's eyes. The people below the life and death arena could not help but cry out in surprise. Did this Yun Chuzhou want to die? Why didn't she dodge? Wasn't she courting death? In Xinlian's heart was filled with joy. Yun Chuzhou, did you suddenly lose your mind? Once the spiritual attack hit her body, she would lose at least half of her life. Unexpectedly, when In Xinlian's spiritual attack was about to reach Yun Chuzhou's body, it was blocked by a layer of spiritual energy barrier. In Xinlian was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She inexplicably recalled that last time, the palace master's wife's spiritual weapon had been taken away by Yun Chuzhou. There were many defensive spiritual weapons inside. However, I don't believe that you haven't used your defensive spiritual weapon all this time. I must kill you today. Therefore, the people below saw that In Xinlian kept attacking Yun Chuzhou, but was blocked by Yun Chuzhou's defensive spiritual weapon. As for Yun Chujio, she kept chasing after the three-eyed lightning marten. She specialized in attacking its eyes and other vulnerable spots. The three-eyed lightning marten was almost driven mad with anger. Those purple needles were very small, and a moment of carelessness would cause those purple needles to hit its vital points. Therefore, the three-eyed lightning marten stopped attacking and desperately dodged Yun Chujio's attacks. Therefore, the audience watched as the two people and one beast began to circle around the stage. Yun Chujio chased after the three-eyed lightning marten, while In Xinlian chased after Yun Chujio. Damn, this was the first time he had seen such a fight. No wonder Yun Chujio was always greedy. At such a critical moment, this defensive spirit tool was really useful. Only this guy could afford to use such a wasteful method. 15 minutes later, the three-eyed lightning ferret was careless and was shot into the left eye by Yun Chujio's small purple needle. After the small purple needle exploded, the three-eyed lightning ferret cried out continuously. In Xinlian had no choice but to put the three-eyed lightning ferret back into her spirit beast pouch, and continue to attack Yun Chujio with her spiritual power. Yun Chujio followed the same pattern and did not defend at all. Instead, she attacked In Xinlian. In Xinlian panicked. She did not know how many defensive spirit tools this bitch had on her. If this went on, she would probably be injured by her. It seemed that she could only use her trump card. In Xinlian took out an array disc from her storage ring. After biting her index finger to lower the blood, the array disc began to activate. Yun Chujio immediately realized that she was in darkness. She knew that she had entered In Xinlian's array. She quickly activated several defensive spiritual artifacts on her body to prevent a sneak attack. At the same time, she took out the luminous pearl to illuminate the surroundings. Even with the luminous pearl's illumination, she could only see the surroundings within 10 feet. The distance was still gray. At this moment, several golden-backed mountain mandrakes with sharp claws and teeth pounced on Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio quickly used the purple needles to attack the golden-backed mountain mandrakeses and other vulnerable parts. Although the effect was good, the golden-backed mountain mandrakes kept appearing one after another. If Yun Chujio killed one batch, another batch would come. Yun Chujio frowned. This could not go on. In the end, she would be exhausted to death. She had to think of a way to break the formation. The fastest way to break the formation was to destroy the formation disk, but the formation disk was in In Xinlian's hands. How could she destroy the formation disk? Yun Chujio felt that she had too many things to learn. Previously, the gigolo told her not to bite off more than she could chew, but now it seemed that she had to have a strong overall strength. Otherwise, she would be too restricted. Chapter 1251 was extremely clever. In Xinlian looked at Yun Chujio struggling like a headless fly inside the array formation and felt very proud. Bitch, I will exhaust you to death even if I have to tire you out. The crowd below the life and death arena immediately exclaimed. This is the In family's blood sacrifice 7 kills array formation. It is one of the In family's most powerful attack arrays. I'm afraid Yun Chujio will have to answer for it. So this is the blood sacrifice 7 kills formation? I've heard that. I haven't seen it before. Yun Chujio is not bad. She has persisted for such a long time. But the In family still has a deep foundation. That's right. After Yun Chujio's defensive spirit tools are exhausted, I'm afraid she will die in the formation. Dean Huangfu was in a difficult position at this moment. Naturally, he couldn't just watch as Yun Chujio was killed by In Xinlian. Putting everything else aside, if Yun Chujio really died, whether it was His Excellency or young Master Wuji, even Elder Jiang had to tear down Tianyuan Academy. But as the Dean of Tianyuan Academy, he couldn't break the rules in public. What should he do? Just as Dean Huangfu was in a difficult position, his identity jade plate started to tremble. Dean Huangfu sent his spiritual sense into it. Ji Sha's voice came from inside. Dean, if Yun Chujio is no match for me, I will force the teacher in charge to close the spiritual energy shield. Please save Yun Chujio. Although Dean Huangfu felt that this method was not very good. After all, Ji Sha could only be fired after doing so. Therefore, Dean Huangfu replied to Ji Sha, let's wait and see for the time being. Don't be in a hurry to make a move. At this moment, Yun Chujo still had not thought of a way to break the formation. The golden-backed mountain mandrakes were still attacking Yun Chujo continuously. Just when Yun Chujo was frowning, she suddenly had a thought. This life and death arena had a spiritual energy barrier, and it had a height. Therefore, this formation could only be limited by the height of the spiritual energy barrier. As long as she thought of a way to raise it, she could touch the barrier of the formation. At that time she could break the barrier and break the formation. Therefore, everyone was stunned to see Yun Chujo continuously throwing big rocks and big sacks. At first, everyone thought that Yun Chujo was using rocks and sacks to attack the golden-backed mountain mandrill. They thought to themselves, isn't this ridiculous? These things had no lethality to the golden-backed mountain mandrill at all. However, the crowd slowly realized that something was wrong. Yun Chujo's things did not hit the golden-backed mountain mandrill. Instead, they were scattered all over the place. The sacks and stones were scattered all over the place like artificial mountains. Yo, could it be that this Yun Chujo thinks that she won't live long, so she emptied out all the things in her storage ring? I don't think so. The things she threw out are all worthless. Maybe she threw out the worthless ones first before throwing out the valuable ones. Speaking of which, this blood sacrifice 7-kill array isn't that easy to break. It's basically impossible for her to live. Suddenly someone exclaimed, "Look! What is Yun Chujo doing?" Everyone looked up and saw Yun Chujo jumping onto the highest pile of miscellaneous items. Then she shot out purple needles continuously, and the purple needles started to explode. Dean Huangfu praised her in his heart. This little girl was really smart. She threw those junk to find the barrier. If it was somewhere else, this method would definitely be useless. However, the life and death platform had a protective barrier of spiritual energy, and the maximum height of the formation could only be lower than the protective barrier. Therefore, the little girl actually found the barrier of the formation by piling up junk. However, could she break the barrier? Chapter 1252 Battle Needle. To break the enchantment, Yin Xinlian also discovered Yun Chuji's goal, and her heart tightened. This bitch was indeed cunning to actually think of such a method. However, with just you, a second-level spirit sect master, you want to break the enchantment? No way. Yun Chujo was very confident because the small purple needle was small in size, and it was subjected to a large force per unit area. Moreover, it could control the time of explosion. As long as she kept attacking one place, she would definitely be able to break the enchantment. Even if it was worse, she would use the sudden rupture talisman to blow it up. Although she would be slightly injured, it was still better than being trapped here. Things went even smoother than Yun Chujo had expected. The small purple needle was simply a battle needle that could break through the barrier. After it shot into the barrier, it exploded again. After a few rounds, a small hole was broken through the barrier. With the hole, it would be much easier to break through the barrier. In less than 15 minutes, Yun Chujo broke the barrier and broke out of the blood sacrifice 7-kill array. While Yin Xinlian was still in shock, Yun Chujo had already attacked her. Several purple needles were aimed at her. Yin Xinlian also had some defensive spirit tools on her. After activating them, she dodged Yun Chuji's attack. However, she was also scared out of her wits. This bitch actually broke through the blood sacrifice 7-kill array. How hateful. Yin Xinlian activated her defensive spirit tool and prepared to activate the array disc again. Bitch, I don't believe that you will be able to hold on for long. The spirit stones on me are enough to tire you to death. Yun Chujo noticed Yin Xinlian's actions and could not help but raise her eyebrows. She could not allow her to activate the array disc again. Otherwise, she would die from exhaustion sooner or later. However, she activated her defensive spirit tool and was unable to break through it for the time being. What should she do? Yun Chuji's eyes darkened. This Yin Xinlian had to die. Chi was right. If she continued to make mistakes, she would be in trouble. She had to kill her today. Even if she had to pay a small price, it would be worth it. Yun Chujo gritted her teeth and took out a sudden rupture talisman from her storage ring. After activating it, she threw it at Yin Xinlian. At the same time, she quickly retreated and activated almost all of her defensive spirit tools. After a loud explosion, Not only was the protective shield of the life and death arena shattered, but a huge crater was also created in the arena. The people below the arena were forced back a few steps by the huge shockwave. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What was going on? Sudden rupture talisman. Yoon Chujio used sudden rupture talisman. Oh my god, is she planning to destroy both jade and stone? When she used the sudden rupture talisman, she had to be at least 300 feet away from the enemy. She was so close to Yin Xinlian. Even if Yin Xinlian died, she wouldn't be able to recover. I think she has been forced into a dead end by Yin Xinlian. If she doesn't use the sudden rupture talisman and Yin Xinlian activates the disc array again, she will definitely die. What you said makes sense. There has been no movement on the stage. Could it be that both of them have been killed by the explosion? Just as everyone was discussing, a person crawled out from the deep pit. It was Yoon Chujio. Her face was charred black from the explosion and her body was covered in dust. She was in an extremely sorry state. The people from the Huang class could not help but cheer. The class monitor had won. Our class monitor had won. That Yin Xinlian must be dead. However, Deputy Dean Yin's lips curled into a cold smile. You guys think too little of our Yin family. Would the young miss of our Yin family die so easily? Xinlian had 2 defensive immortal artifacts on her. How could a sudden rupture talisman be enough to kill her? In her dreams, as expected, someone flew out from the deep pit on a sword. It was Yin Xinlian. Although she looked miserable, her injuries were much lighter than Yoon Chujio's. Chapter 1253. Stupid fighting style. The onlookers were shocked. They didn't expect that both of them were still alive. It was really surprising. It seemed that both of them had a lot of defensive spiritual artifacts on them. The instructor in charge of the competition once again activated the defensive array, indicating for the 2 of them to continue the competition. Yin Xinlian said viciously, "Bitch, you want to kill me with the sudden rupture talisman? In your dreams. You are throwing stones at your own feet. I just need to activate the array disk again. You are dead." Yin Xinlian took out the array board again as she spoke. Just as she was about to open it again, she heard Yoon Chujio say viciously, "Bitch, bitch, let's see who can withstand the explosion between us." Before Yin Xinlian could react to what Yoon Chujio meant, she realized that Yoon Chujio had thrown another sudden rupture talisman at her. Boom! After the loud sound, another huge pit appeared on the stage. The protective array that had just been opened was shattered again, and the people below the stage were forced to take a few steps back. Crazy. This Yoon Chujio is really crazy. She wants to perish together with Yin Xinlian. Yeah, it's a blessing that she could escape with a sudden rupture talisman. She actually activated another one. She really doesn't want to live anymore. She's fighting with a method of mutual destruction. She's really too valiant. This time I reckon that both of them won't be able to survive. This is really a life and death stage. It's really too tragic. Unexpectedly, just as everyone was discussing, Yin Xinlian flew up from the deep pit on her sword. However, compared to the previous time, there were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. It was obvious that she had suffered some serious injuries. Everyone realized that Yoon Chujio hadn't climbed out. Could it be that she had died inside? Yin Xinlian couldn't help but laugh hysterically. Slut! You want to blow me up? The one who died was you. Ha ha ha. Dean Huangfu's head buzzed. It was over. The little girl was dead. Everything happened too quickly. He and Jisha didn't even have time to react. Unexpectedly, Yoon Chujio's arrogant voice came from the pit. Yin Xinlian, open your dog eyes and see. I'm still alive. It's just that the scenery inside the pit is better. I just stayed a little longer. Following her voice, Yoon Chujio flew out on the chopping board. It was the first time that everyone saw a chopping board, and they were all dumbfounded. Damn, what was Yoon Chujio sitting on? A large chopping board? Dean Huangfu had seen chopping boards before, so he wasn't too surprised. What he was worried about now was whether Yoon Chujio had the confidence to win if the 2 of them continued like this. Yin Xinlian obviously had a powerful defensive spirit tool, which was very likely an immortal tool. Yun Chujo had already used 2 burst talismans, so what else could she do? Yun Chujo, although you aren't dead, your injuries are much worse than mine. As long as I activate the array disc, you will die without a doubt. Fight with me? You are courting death, Yin Xinlian said arrogantly. Is that so? I know that you have something good on you and your defense is pretty good, but I don't believe that it can withstand the intensity of the explosion of the 2 sudden rupture talismans, Yun Chujo said as she activated the 2 sudden rupture talismans together and threw them at Yin Xinlian. Crazy. Yun Chujo was crazy. This was the thought of everyone, including Dean Huangfu. They all thought that Yun Chujo was crazy. The 2 sudden rupture talismans were activated at the same time. Even though Yin Xinlian had an immortal artifact on her, after the 2 losses and the 2 sudden rupture talismans this time, she would definitely die. However, Yun Chujo was also dead for sure. This was a method of mutual destruction. It was too stupid. Chapter 1254 was still full of nonsense before death. After 2 earth-shaking explosions, the entire arena ceased to exist, turning into a huge pit. The spectators were forced back dozens of steps by the shockwave. The arena was filled with black smoke, and everyone held their breaths. Would a miracle happen again? Were both of them alive or dead? Or was only one alive? Deputy Dinin clenched his fists tightly. Even if someone was alive, it would be Xinlian. After all, Xinlian had 2 defensive immortal artifacts on her. In the deep pit, Yin Xinlian woke up first. Although she had suffered serious internal injuries, she was still alive with the protection of an immortal artifact. She swallowed a handful of pills and saw Yun Chujo lying not far away. She gritted her teeth. Bitch! You want to kill me? Although you are already dead, I still have to cut you into pieces to appease the hatred in my heart. Yin Xinlian struggled to stand up, took out her sword and staggered to the side of Yun Chujia's corpse. She raised the sword and slashed at Yun Chujio. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujia's corpse rolled on the ground and avoided Yin Xinlian's sword. Before Yin Xinlian could react, Yun Chujio grabbed her ankle and threw her to the ground. At the same time, a large kitchen knife was pressed against her neck. You didn't die either? Yin Xinlian blurted out in disbelief. Yun Chujio didn't pay any attention to her and directly slashed down. Yin Xinlian was unwilling to die. Yun Chujio put away the large kitchen knife and wiped the blood from her mouth. Fuck, why are you still talking so much nonsense on the verge of death? If I answer you, what if something bad happens? Wouldn't all my efforts be wasted? I'm not that stupid. Yun Chujio swallowed a handful of heaven-grade blood coagulation pills and did not sit on the big kitchen board to fly up. This fellow was very shrewd. That old bastard, Deputy Dean Yin, might be waiting for her up there. She was extremely weak now. He would kill her if he was careless. She had better send a message to the dean first to ensure her safety before she went up. Ever since Yun Chujio was harmed by Dian Chui, her vigilance had increased. She had really guessed right. At this moment, Dean Huangfu and the others were surrounding the entrance of the pit. That was what Deputy Dean Yin had planned in his heart. If Xinlian was still alive, it would be fine if Yun Chujio was dead. If Xinlian was dead and that bitch Yun Chujio was still alive, he would just accidentally kill her. Huangfu Zhongheng wouldn't be able to do anything to him. After receiving Yun Chujio's voice transmission talisman, Dean Huangfu gave Deputy Dean Xiao a look. Deputy Dean Xiao said, "This pit is too deep. I can't see anything clearly inside. Let me go down and take a look." After saying that, Deputy Dean Xiao rode his sword and flew down. Although Deputy Dean Yin was so angry that he gritted his teeth, there was nothing he could do. He could only pray in his heart that Xinlian would be safe. As for that bitch Yun Chujio, she must have died. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Not long after, Deputy Dean Xiao flew up. Behind him was a person sitting on the chopping board. Although he was in a sorry state and there were traces of blood on his face, his smile was very bright. Who else could it be but Yun Chujio? With Deputy Dean Xiao's protection, Deputy Dean Yin didn't have the chance to make a move even if he wanted to. He asked with a trembling voice, Where's Xinlian? She's down there. Go and find her. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Deputy Dining hurriedly rode his sword and flew down. Then, everyone heard Deputy Dining's heart-wrenching cry of Xinlian. Everyone naturally understood that Yin Xinlian was probably dead. Not long after, Deputy Dining flew up with Yin Xinlian's body in his arms. Yin Sulian and Yin Shueching immediately burst into tears. Yin Sulian gritted her teeth and said, Yun Chuzhou, you killed my sister. We are irreconcilable enemies. Yun Chuzhou shrugged her shoulders and said, You say that as if we had a good relationship in the past? This is the life and death arena. Isn't it normal for a dead person to die? If you want to take revenge, you should also get a challenge token. Let's meet on the life and death arena. Chapter 1255, Do Not Offend Yun Chuzhou. Yin Sulian was rendered speechless by Yun Chuzhou. How would she dare to go up the life and death arena with Yun Chuzhou now? She only glared at Yun Chuzhou viciously. Yun Chuzhou, just you wait. Our Yin clan will not forgive you. Won't forgive me? Yin Sulian, I will show you a clear path. If you want to kill me, you can either wait for me to graduate from the Tianyuan Academy or issue a challenge to me. We will go up the life and death arena. Otherwise, your Yin clan will suffer the wrath of the Temple of Immortals. Of course, your Yin clan is so awesome. If you are not afraid of the Temple of Immortals' revenge, you can come and assassinate me, poison me, and I will suffer. However, you want to kill me? Dream on. Even if all of you are dead, I will still be alive and well. I am very lucky. Yun Chuzhou said arrogantly. Sulian, shut up. Deputy Dean Yin stopped Yin Sulian. Then he glanced at Yun Chuzhou with a malicious look, as if he had been poisoned. Yun Chuzhou bared her teeth at him and hopped off the life and death arena. Surrounded by the Huang class students, she held her head high and puffed out her chest. Yes, she walked slowly towards the dormitory. Although this guy cheated with Guai Chao, the injuries on his body had not fully recovered. She could not leave even if she wanted to. Everyone looked at Yun Chuzhou's back and only had one thought in their mind. Don't offend Yun Chuzhou, don't offend Yun Chuzhou, don't offend Yun Chuzhou, and repeat the important thing 3 times. This guy was really too brutal. This guy was really too brutal. This guy was really too perverted. How was that a competition? It was a competition of who could withstand the explosion. This was the first time they had seen a competition of who had tough skin and thick flesh. Damn it, that was a sudden rupture talisman. There were 4 of them, but she didn't die from the explosion. Moreover, she could still talk long and hard against Yin Sulian. This meant that even if she was injured, it wasn't too serious. Otherwise, how would she have the energy to fight with others? To sum it up, this person was a person who didn't care about her life. She was also full of evil thoughts. They must never provoke her in the future. After this life and death battle, Yun Chuzhou's reputation in the Tianyuan Academy became even more resounding. Although her cultivation base of the 2nd level of the spirit sect was still despised, she had become a unique existence. Although her spiritual power was low, no one was willing to provoke her easily. Yun Chuzhou was worried because her spiritual power had long been saturated, but she couldn't attract the heavenly lightning, so she was actually unable to break through in a short period of time. Could it be that the heavenly lightning had died from her anger? Why didn't it strike her? Yun Chuzhou had no choice but to come to Dean Huangfu to learn from him. She went straight to the point and explained her doubts. Dean Huangfu pondered for a moment. There is a level between the spirit sect and the spirit saint realm. Many people at the 9th level of the spirit sect have broken through many times before they can break through to the spirit saint realm. I reckon that you have also reached a bottleneck, so you can only wait for an opportunity. There is no good way. Hearing Dean Huangfu's words, Yun Chuzhou could only go back dejectedly. Opportunity? This was too mysterious. This was different from the last time. She lacked actual combat experience. All she needed to do was to go to the trial tower and fight. Where would she find this bullshit opportunity? Besides, she was in the Tianyuan Academy all day long. Where would she find an opportunity? Yun Chuzhou was depressed for less than half a day before she became lively once again. This fellow's self-regulation ability was extraordinarily strong. Since her spirit energy could not break through, then she would just play around with something fun. Didn't Old Man Ian, whom she picked up in the Crimson Cloud Valley last time, say that he was going to teach her the puppet technique? Then she would study this puppet first. This thing was similar to modern robots with a total of 1,800 of them. At that time, whoever dared to provoke her would use the puppet army to kill him. Ha ha ha, it felt great just thinking about it, right? Chapter 1256 was useless. Yoon Chujo first took out Old Man Ian's life puppet in the big coffin, then released Old Man Ian. Senior, didn't you say you would teach me the puppet technique? Teach me now. Yoon Chujo said with full of expectation. Unexpectedly, Old Man Ian's eyes were fixed on her and he was talking nonsense. Yoon Chujo was so angry that she almost fell to the ground. She had no choice but to put away the old man with the surname Ian's remnant soul, his life puppet, and the big coffin. Yoon Chujo was so angry that she kept muttering, "Damn it. Why are all these things that I've collected so good-looking but useless? There's no need to mention the 3 ancestors in my dantian. Xiao Hanyo and the other 2 are immortal beasts and exotic beasts, but each of them is more useless than the other. Not to mention those remnant souls. They will disappear as soon as they go outside. Otherwise, why would I guess the ancient characters? I can ask them and they will all know each other. There's also this old Ian. He goes crazy whenever he has nothing to do. It turns out that I'm just looking for something to do for myself. Not only can he not help me, but I also have to help them restore their souls. I also have to help them find their corpses. I'm simply looking for trouble for myself." Xiao Hanyo was immediately unhappy. "Master, don't you feel guilty for saying this? The 3 of us have risked our lives with you, yet we received the evaluation of a good for nothing? Wawa. This really makes the beast sad. We're all going to die." Yoon Chujo touched her nose guiltily, then she said angrily, "I'm trying to provoke you. I'm regretting that I didn't live up to my expectations. Your status is 10,000 times stronger than those coquettish beasts, but you're really too weak now. I'm very sad. That's why I'm encouraging you. You actually don't understand my good intentions. You've really disappointed me. If you're willing to die, then go to hell. In any case, the old beasts won't go and the new beasts won't come." Xiao Hanyo was instantly dumbfounded. Master, don't be angry. I'm just saying. Well, work hard to cultivate in the future. And this time I'll reluctantly forgive all of you. Cultivate well." Yoon Chujo pouted. "Little brat, you still dare to question my authority. I'll kill you." Just when Yoon Chujo was bored, the dry old man came out of seclusion. Yoon Chujo immediately went to find him. Master, you finally came out of seclusion. I missed you so much," Yoon Chujo said with a flattering look. The dry old man scolded her with a smile. "You little girl, what are you planning now? If you have something to say, just say it. If you have something to say, just say it. Master, can't you speak more elegantly? Seriously, I'm a delicate girl," Yoon Chujo said shyly. The corner of the dry old man's eyes twitched violently. "Tell me, why are you looking for me? How is your research on the ancient characters coming along? And those books, how much do you understand?" "Master, I only guess dozens of ancient characters in total. How can I understand those books?" Yoon Chujo felt extremely regretful when she said this. Previously, in the cave where she found Old Man Ian, those remnant souls could move freely. I should have let them teach me the ancient characters, but at that time I didn't want to get these. I really missed a good opportunity. Maybe I can ask Old Man Ian when he doesn't go crazy. Humph. Haven't you always thought of yourself as smart? Why did you only guess so much after such a long time? What a little trash," the dry old man said disdainfully. He seemed to be happy to attack Yoon Chujo. "Humph. Master, are you belittling me or yourself by saying these words? You've only developed more than 50 words after so many years. I've developed more than 30 words in half a year. If I'm a little trash, won't you be an old trash?" Yoon Chujo quickly jumped behind the bookshelf after she finished speaking. She was afraid that the dry old man would beat her up. The dry old man snorted angrily. Alright, cut the crap. Why are you looking for me? Chapter 1257. Stupid Puppet. Yun Chujo giggled. Master, I can tell that you are knowledgeable. What are you best at? Teach me. The dry old man smiled proudly. I know a lot of things. However, I am best at the art of puppets. I was the one who refined the iron puppet during the Tianyuan Academy's test. What? Master, you were the one who refined that stupid puppet? I wanted to learn a few moves from you, but it seems that I should just forget about it now. Yun Chujo curled her lips and said. The old man was furious. What do you mean by stupid? The iron puppets that I refined are very powerful. How are they stupid? Che! You still don't admit it? The refined iron puppet you refined has a fatal flaw. It only attacks those who have spirit energy fluctuations. If those who don't have spirit energy fluctuations approach it, it won't react at all. However, Master, I still have to thank you. If it weren't for that trash puppet you refined, I wouldn't have been able to earn a few million high-grade spirit stones. Ha ha. The dry old man was stunned. Without a doubt, he had never considered such a problem before. However, he defended himself. Echami, what you said makes sense, but how can there not be people with spiritual power in the Tianyuan continent? So this isn't a problem. Before the dry old man could finish his words, he saw that there was no spiritual power fluctuation on Yun Chujia's body. He stammered, You, how can this be? Don't be surprised, right? That's why I said that your broken thing isn't good enough. Moreover, each of them is extremely stupid. They don't even have their own judgment. I reckon that they can't even distinguish between friends and enemies. If I were to create a puppet, I would create a clever one. Not only would I be able to distinguish between friends and enemies, but I would also be able to find the weakness of the enemy's puppet. At that time, whoever dares to provoke me, I will let the puppet army kill them. Yun Chujo said smugly. The dried-up old man laughed so hard that he fell back and forth. He almost cried from laughing. Little girl, aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue? If you have your own judgment, how can you still call yourself a puppet? Then you will become a spirit. Don't even think about it. Not to mention that kind of puppet, even those refined iron puppets that I refined, you wouldn't be able to make them without 10 or 8 years. Truly, a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Yun Chujo said unwillingly, Humph, don't look down on people. Sooner or later, I will refine that kind of clever puppet. The dry old man snorted coldly and said, You should learn the refined iron puppet first. You really have high standards but low experts. Before learning the puppet technique, you have to learn the talisman art first. Otherwise, it would be impossible to refine a puppet. Talisman technique. I haven't learned it yet. Then let's start learning. Yun Chujo inexplicably thought of the fire outside the Wuwei Tower. Back then, she used the corners of the talisman and dipped her finger in the blood of the demon beasts to draw the talisman. However, there was no reaction at that time, but it caused a fire in the middle of the night. Later, she didn't think about it carefully and just let it go. The dry old man first explained the basic knowledge of the talisman, then began to teach Yun Chujo the first-level fire talisman. After the dry old man calmly finished drawing a flame talisman, with a sullen face he said, Go back and practice diligently. You will succeed after practicing it 1,800 times. You can't use tricks to learn this talisman. Don't dream of becoming a fat man in one bite. No one can succeed after practicing it for dozens of times. The dry old man was so surprised that he couldn't even speak properly. He saw Yun Chujo pick up the talisman pen and dip it in the blood of the demon beast. She finished drawing a flame talisman in just a few strokes. Moreover, it was a high-grade flame talisman. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.